Well, when you know it comes from you, then it really. Crazy.
Okay, you guys, I would like to start the meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the Canyons Board of Education. Today is March 21st, 2023. We're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. And the first item of our study session is Salt Lake County Zoo Arts and Parks funding for
No.
okay, sorry. For possible Midvale Recreation Center and Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator.
Before you go, Leon, if I could take 1 second, if board members need extra thank you cards, in case you messed up with your handwriting or just want extra ones, please let me know and I can pass those on to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you, President Schill. When I think of a joke, I just don't have one.
Oh, you can find it. That's okay.
I
can Google some for next time.
I'll come see there. Mont and I, a couple weeks back, we met with Mayor Stevenson, Midvale City, and he gave us a quick update on a possible rec center there that they are hopefully going to get built with using the ZAP funding from Salt Lake County. Just to give you a brief recap, ZAP is, sponsored by the county. Cities have to go in and make recommendations this year, 2023 and 2024, okay? And then they have a committee, mainly their Parks and Rec Department, reviews all the applications, and for that, there are recommendations onto the county council. Salt Lake County Council then approves those in 2025-ish, and then it goes out to a bond or to implement a tax, if you will, sales tax called ZAP, starting in 2026. It's been going on for about 30 years now. I think it's on round 3. They've used it to build the Draper Rec Center and other rec centers around the state and around the county, and even up at Cottonwood Heights with it added on to the pool, or did some pool repair work with the last round and the trails and whatnot. Anyway, the mayor approached us about possibly contributing to a requisite recreation center if it gets approved and funded by the county council. We did that for Draper City about 5 years ago. On board docs, you'll see the interlocal agreement that the then board approved to contribute to that, and the action document. We contributed $1.3 million. We expressly asked it to go to extra deck space for the Coral Canyon swim team, scoreboard, the diving blocks, and bleachers. So the CHS team could access there. It's worked out really well the last couple of years. So if this does get approved, again, it's still going to be a ways out. Probably, again, it would get approved in 2026 with the tax. They could then begin construction thereafter. It'll probably take them 2 to 3 years to build. We're looking at about 2029-ish, 2030 before it will really be complete. He asked us, we don't need a decision today, but just to put it on your radar of a possible contribution there. We didn't really talk dollars. Inflation's gone way up on construction on all construction projects, so we'll just leave it at that. I don't know if you had anything to add or not.
I think the biggest hurdle is to have Midvale City get through and be approved by by Salt Lake County. But if that were to happen, right now the Hillcrest swim team is swimming at the Gene Fulmer Center in West Jordan, as is the swim team from Jordan High School, as is the swim team from West Jordan High. And I think, I don't know what makes a big difference for Jordan High School or Hillcrest with it.
Jordan High actually doesn't go there.
They don't go there? I thought they did.
They go to the Life Center up on 13th, and then they also go down to Tree House on.
Okay.
So they do. West Jordan goes there. found out today they may have an issue with repairing the James Fuller pool next year, so. It could get
It
shut
could get
down.
real dicey.
Could get revised,
But
yeah.
I just think from a safety point of view, when you've got high school kids driving that far back and forth, they run a bus, you would have saving on a bus that you would save as well.
They would build it on that park west of High, where they have baseball and soccer.
That's nice.
It'll be really.
I don't know where all the kids that left school would go then, but
They still go work out and go.
Mrs. Toomey?
that's where they all go to slough, down at that park.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this. So does the city, I mean, is there a way we can help the city put together the proposal? I mean, does having some sort of commitment help them be more likely to be successful in their application?
Or yes. Last time we submitted a letter of intent to both Draper City and to Midvale City as they went through this process, and we could do that again.
Just update that.
Yeah, we could update that. They are working on just the plans of what they need to contribute to it. The county says anything, with prices so high, anything you can bring to the table helps immensely with their selection criteria.
We have to be very careful that the city is the one that's driving the pony. They do not want to build swimming facilities for high schools. We can be highly supportive, we can make a financial commitment, but for us to go in there and try to be part of the negotiations, I think would shoot us in the foot.
But we could write a letter of support or.
Right. And Leon, I don't know if you see it the same way I do. When our new mayor was elected in Midvale, I thought he was still wet behind the ears. He's a very young person, and I was very apprehensive as to what we were going to wind up with. He has taken the bull by the horn. He is really savvy. He has pushed, and he has made a lot of things happen as far as getting it to where it is. And I am exceedingly happy with Mayor Stevenson.
He's done fantastic with this. Of course, he has kids at Ruby Park in Union, so he's very big supporter of cancer. So again, they don't need a decision, but we wanted to put this out because we may come back to you with that letter of support and a dollar amount. I'm thinking it's going to be in that $2 million range if you want to. Maybe this fall, because that's when. So we just had a few minutes tonight. We just probably give a brief update on that.
And if you have $1 million of your own you want to put in, you might get naming rights on it.
The biggest change, far and away, the biggest change is full day kindergarten. And what that, so we will not have half day. I'm gonna let Amber go over that in our business meeting in her presentation. So, but that will be the far and away the biggest change. It needs to be said that, with this full day, going to full day, it will impact our bus drivers. We're looking at around 25-ish contracts being impacted by that, them moving out on that 2-hour midday run. So again, part of our policy, they go back and then they, based on longevity, they bid up the routes, and that's how it works. But this will impact several bus drivers. You have to figure an attrition and how that all works out, but there could be an impact there. There will be an impact there, I should say. Just moving forward. We did lose some routes this current year because we had 8 schools go on to the grant system this year. They won't have that grant system next year. Here's the bell schedule. We only proposing one change for both elementary and secondary. That is for Mid-Valley. Mid-Valley, if you remember, you approved a boundary change. So Copperview used to have about 50 students kind of in that central area. They always call it the cone shape, but it's right across State Street from where Copperview was. 50-ish students. You approved a boundary change to put those into Mid-Valley starting next year. Those same students are actually bused to Copperview right now. for safety reasons, and they'll need to be bused for the same safety reasons over to Mid Valley. There's not a direct walking route there for kids. So for that, the bus that we're currently using has a run to East Midville. East Midville, you notice, starts earlier. It's one of the earlier 8:15. And then that same bus goes and does that route over to Carpenter. We want to use that same bus to do this Mid Valley run. But in order to do that, we need to move Mid Valley back 15 minutes from 8:25 to 8:40. That bus will still get there bus driver says he can get to Mid Valley about 3:17. So there'll still be a little bit of a gap there, but we feel like the school feel like that was manageable. So that's our only change that we have for you there. There was the times, on board docs, you have all the times for all schools, as well as the secondary schools. Keep in mind, we've always had a kindergarten column here. We've gotten rid of all that. So that's all gone. And any questions? That was good.
Any questions? Anyone? Looks like there's no questions.
It's okay. Well, we could consider bringing this back for your action next meeting.
Yeah, would that be okay if we put on consent?
We can.
General counsel. Well, no counseling going on. My wife's the therapist. Previously, a question was asked about the potential of having proxy voting. Proxy voting would be for a board member who was absent and unable to participate, and would give his or her vote to another board member. It is currently not prohibited in state law. Our policy is silent on the issue. My informal survey, I could not find any school districts that are currently allowing proxy voting. So I believe we would be the first, but in order to do it because of Robert's rules, it would require that we have a policy change permitting proxy voting. Because currently, someone could attempt to do that, but if somebody objected to it, then we would defer to Robert's rules, which doesn't allow for proxy voting unless it is in a policy. So by default, that would kill that attempt. And the rationale in Robert's rules is being a deliberative body, even though you are provided information prior to a board meeting. Part of that is coming and deliberating amongst yourselves and, in theory, potentially changing your opinion based upon that deliberation. And so that's why Robert's rules is opposed to proxy voting. So that's the argument against it. I don't see Charlie, who's going to give insight on what he thought the legislation, but since
His mother-in-law
is having.
a problem, and so he had to leave.
Okay, well, I'll just kind of, what he believes is if we did make a move to change that in policy, he does believe the legislators would probably move to prohibit that. So that was Mr. Evans's opinion there. So any questions?
Any questions or discussion for Mr. Milbrick and Mrs. Pedersen?
I'm the one that pushed that, and it's in 10 plus years on the board, I've had the desire to do that twice. And so I don't see that it is a very big deal as far as that it would be abused or overused. And the reason I asked the question is in both cases, don't press me and ask me to remember what the issue was. But there were issues that I knew were coming for vote. that I would like to have been associated with having voted for those issues. And not being able to be there, and with an 8-hour time zone change on my last one, and needing to be up at 8 o'clock the next morning to ski. I mean, important things. I was not able to even phone in. And to me, it would be just a nice thing to be able to have your name associated that you did vote on the issue. And that's why I asked the question.
Mrs. Patterson.
My question is I understand that point of view. I hadn't really considered that. I just thought that if we needed to maybe have a policy that says that if you've been participating online, are we counting that vote, the online vote? Okay. I wasn't sure if that was already in policy.
Currently under policy, you can by phone or by Zoom participate.
So you're live, so therefore it counts.
As Andrew
Okay, that makes
has done.
Andrew's more of a trooper than I am,
Oh.
4 AM.
No.
And I did confirm with Scott McCombs that, you know, there are small pockets in the world where currently we restrict access there, but even if needed, if for some reason you're in North Korea, we could open it up for a small window and close it.
When there's one of the terrorist nation where you can't,
Right.
the district shuts down.
Do you want me to test that?
I want to recommend it.
Mrs. Oaks. have a question?
So what other kind of governing bodies actually allow for proxy voting?
So again, in my review in that email, that was the only one I could find. I mean, I think you have, you know, not governmental ones, but that's the only one in the
Private
state.
sector.
Yeah.
I mean, my one thought is actually in thinking about Andrew and how often he may need to leave for his military service. And I don't ever want somebody in that position who's, you know, serving in that capacity to be disadvantaged, especially with important issues that come up. So.
Mrs. Teeny.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we had this discussion, you know, a few years ago, so I think it's good to bring it up again. And I understand where you're coming from, but, you know, I feel like as an elected person and the people elect us to be here and, like you said, deliberate and not have our minds made up ahead of time necessarily. And so I'm personally not comfortable moving that direction to put it in policy. I mean, where it's never been tried by any elected body here in the state of Utah, let alone, I'm not even sure in the nation. If because they elected me, they, you know, and to use my background, my perception, my knowledge, and my ability to discuss and deliberate with the body, and really the vote is the body votes. And so, you know, the way it's designed, there's 7 of us, so that if on the occasion someone can't be there, the board, the body can still conduct its business. And so I'm really reluctant on that. And I think we've also, I mean, there's a few things that we could do, like if in timing, if it really is a big issue and it is important to a board member and their personal schedule comes up with a conflict or something, and we could, you know, as a board, we could say, well, let's postpone that particular issue until they're back.
Sometimes you have statutory.
Sometimes there are, right? I mean, but that is something we could look at doing as a body to help mitigate, you know, those occasional conflicts. And then anyway, and then also, you know, we can allow a board member, if they know they're not going to be there and they know because of statutory deadlines, a vote has to be taken, they can on the record say what they would vote if they were there. So then it's still on the record. Well, we could even put it in the minutes, you know, at a previous meeting, board members. But anyway, those are just some of my thoughts. And I guess I'll share too, when we created that board policy, been nearly 10 years ago that we were working on it. And we, you know, there was a little bit of discussion at that point in time, which, and, you know, all these reasons were some of the rationale why it wasn't included at the time in our board policy.
Mr. Edel?
So I mean, I think we've got great ways to participate, and obviously, I mean, it was like my first real meeting I participated from Morocco. At the same time, I think that you know, we were elected to help make decisions. And in those few times when we're unable to for something, I think it would be nice for us to still be able to participate for what we were elected for. And so I get, you know, we deliberate in person, but at the same time, you know, we also spend a significant amount of time reading ahead and evaluating the situation ahead of time, reading emails, etc. So I would be interested in exploring this option further.
Anyone else?
Everybody else has spoken. I'd like one more shot.
Yes. Of course.
I appreciate your comment, Nancy, about they elect us to be there to vote. And that there's a chance we could change our mind. But most of the issues that I'm talking about for which I would like to be able to vote, and who knows, I may never need to do this again. I don't know. But usually those are on the third reading. And we've had 2 readings prior to that. And before we ever say bring that back for a third reading, we pretty much know where we're going with it. And that's why I'm going to deflate your position just a little bit by saying, I know how it is. And I guess there are also 2 ways that the proxy could be given. Number one is, on this issue, I would like to vote yay. The other one is, I give Nancy Tingy my proxy to vote. And if I give that to a board member that I trust, and something comes up to where it would change, I would give that board member the authority to vote my vote as they see fit. So you've got those 2 different methods that you could take for how the board member would
Right,
use
yeah,
proxy.
no, I appreciate that. I don't know. My personal opinion is I don't support.
I'd like to be a leader, you know, nobody else has done it.
I don't mind being a leader in
out,
certain
lead
things.
out.
This is not one of them.
Mrs. Nymer, thank you.
I appreciate all the points that have been given. I do believe we are elected to represent. It is true that we do have multiple readings and we've studied the issue and we've probably talked to our constituents and you know, hopefully that's part of everyone's process, as well as, you know, investigated it at every different perspective within departments in the district. So we should be very well versed, especially by the third reading. I myself don't love the idea of just giving it to another board member and not making a determination for yourself. I wouldn't want to be responsible as the board member that's casting your second vote. And it feels a little bit like then one board member has 2 says instead of just 1. So I think that.
Especially with the 3/4 split.
That's right. So I don't know if any of us would feel comfortable taking on that role. I know I wouldn't. I do appreciate what Nancy says, though. I do believe that, right, the reason why no government body has done this before is because we all appreciate the democratic process. And there should be vigorous debate. And we should be in this role listening to other people's perspectives, right? That is part of it. And I have been there listening to other perspectives and thought twice about you know, what do I want to do? And sometimes it's not on the first read and it's not on the second read. Sometimes there's more information that comes to us on the third read. So I see both sides of it. I think I'm not opposed to looking and exploring a little further, especially given like Andrew's position with his job. I was just thinking, what if one of us were called to jury duty or something?
Yes.
Another, you know, another responsibility that the country is asking of you, right? So, I mean, I can see that it may be worth exploring, but I'm not decided one way or the other because I think there's good points on both sides of this. And I do believe we are elected to make decisions. So I see that point of it. I also really appreciate being there in person and having the debate. So.
And so I want to add my 2 cents. And I mean, I can appreciate both positions too. But the thing is, I can remember over the years, the most controversial votes actually were negotiated on that third reading.
Yes.
When you know it comes from you, then it really, like, it's crazy.
I was like,
Oh, it's YouTube.
it's like delayed.
Oh.
That was us. You hear, you need to listen.
Nah.
So
Different.
I don't know. I just know I'm a little uncomfortable with it. Right? Because I know stuff has changed and I personally would not want to vote for someone else, especially. I mean, if it's an easy thing, yeah, maybe, but a lot of times our decisions are not easy. So I don't know.
I just want to add, as you were talking, I was thinking, so now we're going to make special categories where you're okay to vote and you're okay to vote, but if you go somewhere else recreationally, that's not okay to vote. Because you were saying for your country, as part of your job, you know how you were kind of
Yeah. I wasn't,
defining it. I don't want to be so prescriptive. It's either you'd let them do it or you don't.
Yeah, I
don't
wasn't-
let 'em do it. So
I was just giving an example.
I know, and I started thinking, so are we going to make, categories where you're okay to do it and then other times that you're not? And I think the incentive is to be here. And historically, it's not been needed much. I don't know, you said twice, maybe?
Twice in the 10 years. I've
Twice in
done.
your 10 years. So I don't know if it's an issue that we need to really address at this time. If we see that it coming up, we can note the frequency, but maybe we just don't worry about it right now.
Yeah, I think Mr. Edel and then Mrs. Tunin.
My question would be, do we have enough support to send this to the policy committee to explore further?
That's what I was just gonna, so, I wanna say one more thing. I don't know if we wanna put a target on our back from the legislative.
Yeah.
Point of view.
That was
We
gonna
don't
be
need
my
that.
comment. I just wanted you to clarify what Charlie said.
I wish you were here. It's unfortunate that he was called
We
away.
have a text.
We have a text from, it says it is a bad idea. Policy voting is a bad idea. I don't think the legislature will stand for it. They will never allow it to stand if they find out.
Well, there you go.
My question.
Yeah, I'm not sure I put it as eloquently, Charlie, so.
If there is not enough support, we want to send it to the policy committee to have them put something in policy prohibiting proxy voting.
That was
It's
another
implied by
thought that I
Robert's
had too, just to clarify.
I mean, this is not a hill I want to die on.
Because there's nothing in policy right now that addresses.
So maybe to just not be silent on it,
We could do that.
consider doing that.
The only thing you found was Robert's rules.
Robert's
Go by Robert's rule.
I know, and
Well,
Is that there is
that that it would, we'd fall back to that and it
I'm just
basically
feeling
says
that
no.
if it's in policy that it's not accepted, that then we don't have this debate again in 2 more years.
Fair enough.
Oh, okay.
and as a board, I mean, if you see something coming up, I think leadership could schedule things
Yes,
around.
I'm willing to do that, yes. Like, especially if it's something really
Not
important,
just
we
be-
should try to get everyone
But
here.
I'm not going to say postpone it so I can vote. I'm going skiing.
Into that. You could, this might not change.
My thought is we have a lot of important needs in policy committee, and unless this does come up again in a couple of years, I don't know that we need to
Take their time.
take the time to do that right now.
We could just do a simple
You could just do
add a
some.
line in, but
Okay.
we do have a lot coming up in policy.
Are we all
That are very
okay
pressing.
if policy committee just looks at it quickly?
Can it just not be our first priority? There's so much with legislation right now that's way more important than this, I think.
Well, why don't you just add it like to the bottom of your list of 20 things, once you've done all the stuff from the legislature?
Like.
Or when we cycle through to look at that section of policy again.
Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. Is there anything else? Thank you, Mr. Harper. We appreciate you. Okay, we will have a 15-minute break. Let's all try to be on time. Let's be on time.
Remember, nice word.
Let's schedule.
Back up. There you go.
That was great. Thank you. It wasn't just me, it was the whole board. Thanks, you guys.
Right,
Thank
she
you,
was
everyone.
talking.
Yes, but it's been a long time, not within the last couple of years.
It happens about as often as I ask Proxy.
This is a unicorn. This appreciate-
It happened before COVID.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with how many.
Yesterday was the first day of spring.
I knew these were short.
Yesterday we had all the snow and sleet.
Five.
That was yesterday.
Any conversation, any one of them will throw them off. So
Yeah.
it's.
Are you? Let's get down to. the Canyons Board of Education meeting. Today is March 21st, 2023. And we are meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. The first thing that we need to do is to approve our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight, March 21st, 2023.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none, I will take a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any in opposition? Okay, that vote is unanimous. Okay, so we have a special treat today. First of all, we have Senator Kathleen Reedy that is joining us, and we will hear from her a little later. And then also we have Scout Troop 8020 that is going to do our Pledge of Allegiance today. So welcome.
Will the audience please rise? Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Hand salute. Please repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please post the colors of the United States. Color guard reassemble. Color guard dismissed. Audience may be seated.
Okay, thank you so much, Scout Troop. That was fun to have you here. We haven't had any scouts here for a while, so thank you for being here. So at this time, we will have school highlights by Jordan High Principal Bruce Etchler.
Okay, let's see. There we go. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the board regarding one of my favorite topics, Jordan High School. On the wall across from the front office of Jordan High is a plaque with our motto, honoring the past, embracing the present, and anticipating the future. These words sum up the core of what makes Jordan High School amazing and singular among high schools in Utah and in our district, as one of the oldest high schools in Utah and the oldest tree and community at all levels. I remind our incoming ninth graders every year that their dreams are limitless because tens of thousands of beat diggers have paved their way before them. But enough about the past. Let's consider our accomplishments of the present and anticipate what's ahead of us in the future. Our students and staff have had a wonderful year in the classroom. Academically, we've seen success as we received a B grade on the state's report card, as well as seen increases in our graduation rate. We have a large variety of college and career ready pathways for our students, including 16 AP classes, 24 CE classes, and many CTE courses. We have CE partnerships with SLIC, UVU, Weber State, USU, and Utah Tech. We also provide DLI and bridge courses in Spanish through the University of Utah and are extremely proud of our first cohort of juniors who will participate in the Step to U program this summer. As an avid school, we also provide an instructional culture that focuses on writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. Out of the classroom, Jordan High students give it their all as they participate and succeed in a myriad of extracurricular activities. Our Madrigal Choir started the year by winning first place sweepstakes award for the choir in a choir competition at high school Shakespeare competition in Cedar City. Dance company also got first place in the ensemble performance in their division. Performing arts has had an amazing year this year as they compete in a myriad of different competitions, placing, and we're excited to see what they do in state. Visual arts has also had a stellar year, with 4 students having their art selected for the prestigious Springville High School Art Show, with 1 student receiving a Juror's Award of Merit. Students who are part of our CTE program, in particular our Career Technical Student Organizations, also known as CTOs, continue to highlight the great strength of CTE programs we have at Jordan. DECA, FBLA, FCCLA, and Educators Rising have placed in region, state, and many are moving on to qualifying for national competitions. The Spot, our school store, managed by our DECA students, reached the highest level of achievement and recognition for a high school school store, the Gold Certification. This is the 10th straight year that we have earned this honor. On the court and on the field, Jordan High School student athletes have also had a great year. Individual athletes in girls tennis, boys golf, boys swimming, boys wrestling, and girls wrestling competed and are placed in state events. On the team side, boys and girls cross country, girls basketball, girls wrestling, drill, and boys swimming all did well in their season and their respective playoffs and state competitions. Drill and boys swimming in particular placed in the top 10 in their events. I'd also like to give a big shout out to our unified soccer and basketball teams. Jordan High Unified students, athletes once again qualified for state events at Rio Tinto and at Weber State, and they placed in both events. We are so excited for their achievements, and I deeply appreciate, as the principal of Jordan High, the board and district's increased emphasis and attention to this wonderful program. They are by far some of my favorite events as a principal. In conclusion, I'd also like to speak to some of the service opportunities and service that our Jordan High students and groups give to our community, because it highlights one of our key concepts of heart. Jordan students continually show that their hearts beat for their community as they find ways to serve. Student athletes volunteered and supported Park Lane's Fun Run this year. Students in our sculpture classes collaborated with students at Bella Vista to create 3D textile stuffed monsters. They're adorable and amazing. Our student groups and teams led by our SELs held a massive trunk or treat event for our neighboring elementary and middle schools. Our student ambassador program, new at Jordan this year, helped students who are not only new to our school, but frequently new to our country navigate the challenges of comprehensive high school. Our PTSA, Pro Start, and Performing Arts students hosted our annual dinner and a show event where we provide dinner and a wonderful musical this year, Once Upon a Mattress, to retired members of our community, where they also get to add to their pin collection. Pin collecting is a big event at Jordan. LIA and PLT students provide service to Jordan Valley as well as Glacier Hills. Our student body met their charity drive goal in raising money for family impacted by childhood cancer. Our students continually show they have big hearts, and they show that we're in good hands for the future. Again, as you can see, I'm a very proud principal of my students in my community. Go Jordan, go beat diggers.
Okay, thank you so much for being here and sharing those highlights with us. That was wonderful to hear about Jordan High School. So now on the agenda, we will go to our Canyon Strong student recognitions, and I'll turn the time over to Jeff Haney, Director, and Christian Stewart, Associate Director of Communications.
Thank you, President Schill, for this time to recognize the achievements of students in the Canyon School District. As a reminder, under our new schedule of 4 recognitions, this week we will focus our recognitions on our students. At the next board meeting, we will return to our Canyons Strong Employee Recognitions Program. And then at the next meeting, we'll again turn the spotlight on our fantastic students. Those who are mentioned tonight will receive a letter of commendation from the board and the superintendent. And we want to honor our 6A champions. I believe that Mrs. Nybauer knows one of the students right there on that team. Her son Isaac is one of the members of the Corner Canyon High basketball team. They are the champions in the 6A division of the Utah High School Activities Association. We congratulate them for coming out on top in this year's tournament. They avenged a loss last year to the American Fork Cavemen. They came back this year to beat the Cavemen in the final game. With the win, this is good news as well. The Corner Canyon Chargers were invited to the prestigious State Champions Invitational in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University, April 6th through the 8th. So congratulations to the Corner Canyon Chargers, the 6A state champs in boys hoops, and hopefully the national champions at the State Champions Invitational in Washington, D.C. So we wish them much luck and congratulate them on the fantastic season. And congratulations to Isaac and of course his mom, who was always in the stands cheering for her boy. Now, we will be happy to note that all of the games at the national tournament will be televised on ESPN. So we'll be watching for the Chargers on national television. The next honorees are the Alta High Hawks. It was quite a night to shine. Canyons District made history on the night that the Chargers first took the state trophy, and then right after that, Alta High took the state trophy in 5A. That's the division of Utah High School Activities Association for schools the size of Alta. Alta High School, they did a phenomenal job getting to the championship round. They faced the #1 seed Olympus in the semifinals. They downed them by 20 points to make it into the championship round. And against Timpview, they ended up at the end of the night with a 64-53 win. The crowd was simply electric. The student body turned out big to cheer on the Hawks, and we cheer them tonight. So congratulations to the Alta High Hawks, the 5A champs for boys hoops. Alta Hawk Jackson Johnson was also the 5A tournament MVP. So congratulations to him. So both of these titles, push us to multiple titles this year, state and individual for students who won in extracurricular activities. So congratulations to all of our students who participated in these activities. And our next honoree is from Corner Canyon. Brody Kozlowski is the Max Prep Player of the Year. Just days after winning the state title with the Chargers, he was named to this prestigious award. The 6'7" junior forward averaged 17.7 points, almost 12 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.4 blocks, and 1.3 steals, while shooting 50% from the field and 82% from the free throw line. Also, Brody's efforts from the 3-point range were nearly 40% this season. So congratulations to Brody, who is the Max Preps Player of the Year. Now, our next honorees, we have already recognized for their first ever win. I guess I should say they won the first ever trophy since the High School Activities Association has sanctioned girls competitive cheerleading and co-ed competitive cheerleading. But we also want to note that Corner Canyon cheerleaders won the national competition. They won the first place trophy at Universal Cheerleaders Association's national competition in Orlando. So congrats to Coach Lunt and her team for a fantastic season. Now we flip back to the Alta High Hawks for the next honorees, and those are the esports and the robotics teams. First, Alta High's robotics team is headed to nationals. The Hawks and their advisor Ron Strom received the Engineering Inspiration Award at the Utah Regional First Robotics Competition. This is a contest held at the Maverick Center. It drew 44 student teams from 10 states. And the Inspiration Awards earns them a spot at the first national championship held April 19th through the 22nd in Houston. We had 4 other schools compete: Alta, Jordan, Hillcrest, and Corner Canyon. And Hillcrest High's robotics advisor, Cleve Castleton, was recognized with the Gracious Professionalism Award. Now we also turn our attention to the Hawks' esports team. They are the repeat grand champions in Super Smash Brothers at the 2023 Ken Garff Esports Spring Celebration. Now, this event is held at the University of Utah. It is in the John M. Huntsman Center, and it draws students from throughout the state to compete and participate in workshops in coding, cybersecurity, photography, engineering, and more, including playing video games. They would kill me. I'm horrible at video games. These are the students who represented Canyons at the District Day on the Hill. They represented us well. It was nice to see them interact with our legislators and other elected officials, and we are so happy that they walked away as repeat champions again this year. Now, March Madness would not have been complete without the Unified Sports Basketball Tournament. I echo Dr. Eschler. It is amazing to see our unified teams hit the court. Now, teams from Brighton, Jordan, Corner Canyon, and Hillcrest all qualified to compete at the Unified Special Olympics Basketball State Championship Tournament. It was held at Weber State University. The Bengals, the Diggers, the Chargers, and the Huskies had amazing squads that put in great performances at the state competition. And Brighton High's team also, in advance of the state tournament, they faced the varsity squad in a very special scrimmage, and it drew a dignitary, the likes of First Lady Abby Cox. It was an amazing performance where we had the varsity Bengals face the unified squad, and the unified squad took it to them. It was really fun to see the students excel, and they even sunk a three-pointer. It was fun to watch. It was also fun to watch the Brighton High community come together. The cheer squad was there, the pep band was there, and every time the unified players made a basket, all of the students stood up and cheered. So congratulations to all of our unified state basketball teams who qualified to compete and those who won or ended up on in the podium. And then the last but not least, we also have another special recognition. This is at the request of Superintendent Robbins. It's the announcement of the new school performance director. The successful candidate will follow in the footsteps of Dr. McKay Robinson, who was announced earlier this year as the new assistant superintendent. Now tonight, the board during consent is expected to confirm Sally Sansom as the new school performance director. Sally is an administrator in our human resources department and has served as the principal of East Midvale Elementary School. Now she'll join McKay, Alice Peck, Cindy Hansen, and Tom Sherwood as those who will make up our school a performance office for the coming school year. Those who work with Sally say she's a consummate professional who looks at challenges as opportunities, and she does so with a smile. Dr. Robbins and Dr. Robinson welcome Sally to the new position. She couldn't be here tonight. She's in St. George at a conference for all of school HR officials. But we congratulate Sally and welcome her to this new role in the Canyons District Administration. President Schill, we thank you for giving the time during board meeting to honor those who are raising the name of Canyon School District, truly making us Canyons strong. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. So we have now come to the time to the patron comment portion of our meeting. The board often designates time in meetings to listen to the patrons of the district. Patron comment time is limited to residents and taxpayers of Canyons District, students and parents of students, and current employees of the district. Patrons may provide board members with written documents. These documents may be submitted to the board secretary at the meeting or emailed to the Office of Public Communications by noon of the day following the board meeting. And our board secretary is right over there. Tonight, individuals will be given 3 minutes, and those representing groups will be given 5 minutes. And comments made during the patron comment are part of the public record. It is the board's practice to listen and take notes during patron comments. The Board of Education does not discuss matters that are not on the meeting's agenda, nor engage in public comment on individual students to protect their privacy or employee issues. If a patron wants to comment on a district employee's character, professional competence, or mental or physical health, the board requests that those comments be submitted to the board in writing. However, if a patron determines to verbally comment on those personal issues, the comments need to be civil and refrain from personal attacks, insults, defamatory, or slanderous comments about an individual. The Board of Education would like to make clear that critical race theory is not part of the curriculum being used in Canyon School District. There are no plans to incorporate it into the curriculum or instruction in Canyon schools. The Board of Education values input on all sides of issues. To maintain decorum and respect, we ask that those in attendance refrain from applause or other types of demonstrations during the patron comment time, as well as throughout the meeting. So we have 3 people that have signed up today to speak to the board. The first one is Andrew Morgan, and then we'll have Cammie Shipp, and then Senator Kathleen Reedy.
Good evening. I'm indeed Andrew Morgan. I came before you last September to discuss facility issues at Eastmont Middle School. At first, I actually want to thank you. I don't know if you get that very often from parents at board meetings, but to thank you for the ongoing support of the repairs of the school and the facilities. Obviously, those repairs have far exceeded anyone's expectations of what was going to be there. But again, thank you for the commitment there. I also understand that the district is currently in the process, as you should be, of evaluating long-term facility needs for the district. And Eastmont Middle School faculty and staff continue to wrestle with the unclear future of their school. I want to just take a second to recognize that Eastmont students are academically challenged in a safe and respectful environment unique to Eastmont that is not common in my experience with other Canyons middle schools that I've been involved with. The culture is very intentional. Ms. Kurtzall is a gem. She's phenomenal and is committed to creating a school that values the whole child and a unique school built on character, quality, and respect. I've been a parent. I did this last time. Sorry, I lost time because I got all weepy, so I'm sorry. I've been a parent and uncle with students at Indian Hills, Draper Middle School, and Eastmont, and it's only at Eastmont that I've seen an intentional culture where the faculty, staff, and students are truly encouraged, supported, listened to, and held accountable to high standards. I think it's evident as well at how well the entire school transitioned from Eastmont to the Crescent Middle School building this year. That was an amazing turnaround, in my opinion. And they continue to do really well in building that. They're not happy there. They'd much rather be back in their building, but they're doing really well. In fact, Ms. Kurtzall has a sign, if you haven't been in there, that they are doing as best as they can. That's not a dad joke. That's a real thing hanging in there. So as an Eastmont parent, I believe that it's imperative that as a superintendent and as board members, I ask that you recognize excellence when you have it and prioritize rewarding it. Eastmont faculty and staff are worth adjusting boundary lines and building repair costs. It's a gem in the Canyon School District, and it would be a shame not to continue a commitment to the school. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Cammie Shipp.
Hi, I'm Cammie. I'm also Wyatt's mom. You may have heard about his story last board meeting about him running in the jogathon at Willow Springs. So that's my Wyatt. It takes a village to raise a child, as we know, but it takes everyone in that village to raise a child in an ACC classroom. We have Team Wyatt. Many of the people on his team are not listed on his IEP. The kids at the jogathon that day, they were part of Team Wyatt. Wyatt has an extremely rare genetic syndrome. He's never fit in a box, which has been pretty difficult at times. But through tireless efforts, we've learned that through peer modeling is how he has learned. We've utilized his neighbors, peers, and siblings to teach academic skills, behavioral skills, appropriate boundaries, and social skills. Wyatt is aware of the people around him. As we walk through Harmon's, at the library, and our church community, he knows the people around him. In fact, tonight we went to the Willow Springs fundraiser at Zupa's tonight, and he was so excited to see his friends there. We have done a lot of work to get Wyatt to a place where he initiates conversation, where he's comfortable, and where he genuinely has friendships. He's thriving and loves the people around him. And everyone loves Wyatt. They say hi to him, and because of Wyatt, he makes others in the community happy too. New environments have always been really challenging for him and how he processes the world. We have found that stability in his school community has made it possible to progress. I have 4 other children at different schools in the district, and what I have learned through middle school and high school is that my kids need their people. Children succeed when they have purpose, feel included, and have a place among their peers. After 11 years in Draper, we have established many relationships. This is where our friends and Wyatt's friends are. Kids want to go where everyone knows their name. Wyatt's community at Willow Springs know him. They know his limitations, and they also know his strengths and include him despite of his genetic makeup. He may never learn to read, but his happiness and joy of going to school with his neighbors and his friends builds his confidence and helps him feel like he is just like everyone else. Right now, there is not an ACC classroom at Draper Park Middle School, which would be Wyatt's feeder school. So we're asking him to move across the valley to a place where nobody knows Wyatt, then send him back to Corner Canyon for high school. Removing him from his traditional peers for middle school would rock his world, to say the least. He needs consistency and he needs his people. My hope is that you would consider adding an ACC classroom at Draper Park and then look at all the high schools and look at corresponding, at least one elementary feeds into a middle school that feeds into a high school. We need to be more conscientious of removing these kids from their neighborhoods. It seems like with proper planning, we can address all kids of all neurodiversities and let them access everything they need from their neighborhood school. I want to thank this board, especially. I know a lot of work has gone into keeping Willow Springs another 2 years ACC program. So we recognize your efforts and your service, and our family is very, very appreciative for all you have done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Reeve. Thank you, everyone for being here and for your service. It's so nice to see people in the audience. I come to a lot of these meetings and there's nobody in the audience, so it's nice to see that people are becoming more involved and more engaged. We just finished our session 2 weeks ago and it was very exciting, but I would like to thank our legislative team because they were relentless and they were tireless and they were advocating for education across the state, not just for the Wasatch Front. So I really give you a lot of credit for the great team that you have. I appreciate seeing a lot of you at the JLC. You're such strong advocates for our kids, and it really means a lot to me to see you up there working for our neighborhood. As a parent in this district, we have a 6% WPU, which was a pretty good celebration, and we also have 12% of unrestricted funds, which we kind of work for in education appropriations. And I was trying to read the bill to find out where exactly it was, but we tried to keep money as least restricted as possible. So the EAC did some fun stuff at the end, so I still have to kind of unravel that. We supported some really good things. We supported some safety. We pay for specialists and paraeducators. We tried to get some post-retirement efforts through, increased flexibility with our reading programs and international baccalaureates, and then also grading. School grading has been ended, and then salary amendment adjustments. So those are some things we supported, and we felt like we won on those. Some of the stuff we stopped was over extended fees with our sports curriculum, overreaching policies into how we run our schools. So that was kind of a celebration that we stopped those things, and some trust land things. I'd like to celebrate Team Wyatt. My kids went to Granite Elementary and they had a extended core, and it was so nice to see how well you guys integrated the kids in every part of the school, because as Andrew said, it does take a family and a whole community to make connections. So I really do appreciate what you were saying. Team Wyatt, though, we can do some more work on our IEPs and our 504s to make sure we're meeting all the needs of all those kids. As a state, I think Canyons does a great job. And in closing, I'd like to encourage everyone to get involved more. All the millions and millions of people that are listening, run for office, get involved, contact your legislators and let them know where you stand, because your voice really is important to us. And I do read a lot of emails, not all of them, because sometimes they're forms, but I try to get back to as many people as possible. So thank you for all the efforts, and it was great to see you up there, Mont. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone who participated, and thank you for your work, Senator Reeby. We really appreciate you. Okay, so now we are gonna go on to the next item on the agenda, and that is the consent agenda. So I would like to have a motion, if someone would like to make that motion, and please read all the items.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. So I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes item A, approval of minutes from the March 7th, 2023 board meeting. Item B, approval of hire and termination reports. Item C, approval of purchasing bids. Item D, approval of student overnight travel. Item E, approval of February financial reports. Item F, approval of administrative appointments. Item G, approval of dual settlement. Item H, approval of policy update, policy 600.04, school year calendar development, and Exhibit 1, advisory calendar committee guidelines.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to pass the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That passes unanimously. Now we will go on to section 8 of our agenda, and that is new business. And item A is full day kindergarten update by Dr. Amber Roderick Landward, Director of Instructional Supports.
Good evening, board. I am so excited to be talking to you today about full day kindergarten. I went back to the archives, and it has been quite a while since we started this journey in our district to really expand full day kindergarten. It was a dream of ours 7 or 8 years ago, if I remember correctly. So it's exciting to be able to see how far we have come and what the opportunities we will have in moving forward with this expansion. So I want to just kind of walk you through what we've been doing with regards to full day kindergarten and how we are planning for the expansion, and wanted to keep it really brief so that we could just talk through any questions that the board may have as we move forward. So just a reminder, and I shared a similar quote when Dr. Briscoe and I came to you, like I said, 8 or so years ago to think about expanding full day kindergarten, and the opportunity that we have to really provide students with the opportunity in a more holistic manner with more time. We really get to focus on all of those developmentally appropriate and incredible learning opportunities that we know that we can provide in a safe learning environment in our schools. So to date, we have 13 of our schools that are offering full day kindergarten school-wide. And from those 13 schools, we have 16 students across all 13 schools, or roughly 1% of those that are participating in full day kindergarten, who have selected to do a half day option in those schools. At most of any of those schools, there are anywhere from 0 to 3 students who have made that request. So again, the highest number of students that have requested to date in a full day school has been 3 students. In addition to the schools that offer full day kindergarten across the board, we have 13 schools that offer at least one section or session rather of supplemental kindergarten. And we currently still have 60 students on the waiting list who would like to get in should space become available. And then we have 2 schools that are offering half day sessions only. So all of that together, we have roughly 72% or close to 3/4 of our students participating in full day kindergarten right now in Canyon School District. So just a reminder of what our full day kindergarten program has looked like over the years. And again, we've had the benefit with having so many of our students participating in full day to really refine this over the years. We do have the benefit of full day to be able to offer more instructional time in both literacy and math. And then one of the exciting things again is that we have the opportunity to offer double the time in our oral language block, which is specially designed to be able to support students with language and social development in a real play-centered environment. And so this is something that, again, I think Canyons is unique in that we offer this in our half-day and full-day programs, but that our focus on building language through that intentional play has been something that we're quite proud of, and our teachers do an incredible job in building this in. Some of the benefits that our teachers have reported in their full-day implementation is that overall, it's just a less hurried day. Our half-day programs are anywhere from 2 hours and 35 minutes to 2 hours and 40-ish minutes. And so spreading that out across 6.5 hours really gives them the opportunity to think differently about their pace and provide that support to students, which is also that next bullet. So really thinking about how you can individualize for your students. The other benefit of that individualization in a full day program is that you're thinking about the individualized needs of roughly 20-ish, 22 students instead of the 45 students that you would have if you were teaching 2 sessions of a half-day kindergarten program. One of the things that we felt really strongly about when we brought this proposal to you 8 years ago was the opportunity we have to really keep our schools as centers in the community and keep our siblings together. We have a lot of families who were having to find different schooling options and childcare needs, and we didn't have quite as many full day options back then. And so many parents have just continued to express the support of being able to have all of their kids together for that schooling experience. It also has given us the opportunity to provide more consistent intervention supports over the course of the day because there's more time to fit that into the master schedule. Likewise, we also have the opportunity to provide more extension and enrichment opportunities as part of that school day with a full day schedule. And then finally, that sustained enrollment is going to be a big benefit moving forward because we have a lot of students right now who are choosing to attend our supplemental programs in schools that are not their neighborhood school, and then they're going back to their neighborhood school for first grade. So again, the opportunity to have that school be the center of the community, the kids get to start there and stay there beginning in kindergarten. So that's kind of what we've been doing right now. Wanted to also share with you the latest results in terms of our student achievement data and that comparison between our students who are participating in half-day programs this year compared to our full day. And this is, we chose to focus on this year's data set because again, the larger number of students that we have a better representation of the students in our district looking at this year's data and comparing the 2 different programs. We did exclude the Title I schools from this data set, but I'm happy to provide that for you as well because that really skewed the data a little bit in terms of the dynamic needs and populations in our Title I schools and being able to ferret out the difference in growth in looking at those schools separately. So what you're looking at right here is the reading composite between our students in full day and half day and what that performance was in terms of their benchmark proficiency between fall and winter. So the dark orange is our full day students, and then the lighter peach is our half day students. So you can see the growth from fall to winter with our full day students is higher. And in this case, with our half day students, that data has remained static from fall to winter. Here's that same graph looking at, the same data set in terms of the students, looking at the students who are making typical or better progress. So again, that's that growth piece from the fall to the winter. So you can see our full day students, we have roughly 68% of them who are making typical or better progress. And then in the half day, we have roughly 60% of the students making typical or better progress. Moving on to math, and this I think has been one of the biggest surprises that we've seen over the years with our implementation of full day kindergarten is that the growth in our math has actually exceeded the growth that we've seen in our English language arts, which it just seemed surprising to us. But then when you really look at the comparison in terms of minutes, even in a 2 hour and 40-day session for our half day kindergarten, the majority of that time is going to English language arts. And so then again, when you look at that full day opportunity for more math,
you really see that paying off in terms of the growth with our students. So again, here's that difference between fall and winter and the number of students who are reaching that benchmark or who are above that benchmark. Again, the orange is our full day kiddos, and then the peach is our half day students. And then here's that typical or better progress metric as well for half day in the dark green and then, or excuse me, full day in the dark green and half day in the light green. So you can see some differences there, as I mentioned. So just wanted to give you a little bit of a rundown of some of the work that Cabinet has been doing to get ready for the district-wide full day implementation. We've spent some time, you've seen and heard about the communication to the families that's gone out in various venues. Communications has been a great support in helping us think through that campaign and getting the word out. Our schools have also been personally sending information to their individual communities to be able to share what's happening in their school and answer questions specific to that school's community. We've also started the process of refunding the supplemental kindergarten registration and tuition fees because that process started a little while ago and was already nearing full capacity. And so we've worked that piece through. Leon started to talk about in the study session the changes that are underway to plan for the routes that will not include that half day or middle of the day pickup and what that impact is going to be to our transportation department. I don't know if you're going to talk any more about that now, Leon, or save that for if there are any questions. We've also been working with HR to work on the hiring process. Expanding to full day does mean that we need more full day teachers, and working to recruit. And like Jeff just said, Sally's down in St. George right now, and we're looking at recruiting all over. And then also working with Sebastian, once we have the school schedules identified, there may be some need to hire some additional nutrition service folks. And so we'll continue to keep an eye on that as we get those schedules in place. We're in the process of planning professional learning for our teachers who will be shifting to the full day model that have not previously been teaching in that. There are some nuanced differences that, again, we've had the benefit to learn over the years when we've had teachers shift from teaching 2 sessions of half day to a full day program. Very different ball game when you've got kids for 2 hours and 40 minutes versus when you've got them for 6 hours plus. And so that takes some rethinking in terms of planning, pacing, and behavior management, of course. And then finally, just working with our individual schools on their master schedules, thinking through how they're going to organize their time, planning for the potential of students opting into that half day option, what that's going to look like at each individual school, what materials, equipment, and all of those things so that they can be ready to go come August. I know that you have gotten some questions, as have we, about what does this half day option look like when we don't have a traditional half day session in our schools. And I can tell you again, having the benefit of having had so many full day programs over the years, we've, I think, had some opportunities to try out a number of things. So what we are recommending to families who would like to participate in half day rather than a full day, we do strongly recommend that they attend in the morning because that's going to be just the optimized option for learning in terms of accessing critical standards in literacy and math, as well as the opportunity for participation in some of the brain boosters and other activities that will be happening in the morning. This also makes for a really nice transition because then as the students in kindergarten are heading down for lunch, the students who are staying half day, the teachers can walk them to the pickup point in the office. And so it's not a big, now half day's over, you can head to the office. It becomes a little bit more of a natural transition. And that seems to have worked really well for our schools who are in this situation now. We have really in every school that has provided this half day option, they've all been able to provide a really high quality experience for the students who have accessed this option in both literacy and numeracy and those prioritized standards. Families have been responsible for transportation, and then families have the option to transition to full day at any time, which many have accessed. And like I said earlier, right now we have 16 students across our 13 schools who have opted into the half day opportunity. So with that, I just wanted to, like I said, give you kind of a brief overview of what we have been up to with regards to full day, our planning, some of the data, and then address any questions that you might have.
Okay, Mrs. Pedersen and then Mr. Milliberg.
Okay. I had two questions. One is, I know you said numeracy and literacy for the morning. Are these also repeated in the afternoon? So it's kind of built in to the whole core for the whole day, or is it completely in the morning? And then what are these halftime students missing out on in the afternoon?
It's going to vary by school because remember in a master schedule,
Yeah.
Having taught for many years, there's a number of things that you're fitting into the master schedule besides just your math and your literacy and numeracy blocks. So they're looking at the brain booster, the intervention schedule, special education services, all of those pieces go into the master schedule. So it's going to look slightly different at every single school, but for the most part, students who participate in the half day option will receive literacy and math. Whether or not it's the entire block is going to depend on the school, and that's just going to be something that's, again, so individualized.
So as part of literacy, that would be continued again in the afternoon with writing exam, learning our letters and those kinds of things, or is that all just in the morning?
Most of them right now have been doing the foundations and the bulk of the block in the morning. And again, some are doing intervention in the morning, some are moving it to the afternoon, depending again on the interventionist schedule.
Well,
So
that makes
it's
sense. I
those
just
things.
wanted to say that so that if parents have questions, what are they going to miss out? I like the fact that you have said that at any time in the year, they can transition, I'll say it, back to full time if that's what they feel like would now be beneficial. So they have that option, and I assume that it can go halfway, go back out too, that you can go in and out. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate the flexibility that each school is willing to work with, to meet with the needs of the parents. And the other question I had is, how are the teachers responding to this situation of, I've always been a halftime teacher. Are there many of them that are willing to go full time? Or are we having teachers that are having to lose their jobs?
My understanding is that we only have 6 teachers.
No, he
I-
had to go.
My memory serves me correctly. We have 6 kindergarten teachers right now who are only teaching half-time.
That's not.
And so those teachers, some have elected, I can't remember how many, to go full-time. Some have elected to not continue. Some are awaiting, what's the term, school performance? It's not part of the obligatory transfer, is it? It's the perhaps, yeah, maybe that's it. Sorry,
Something like that.
but hoping that a halftime opportunity might come up.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to make sure that because of this decision, which we 100% support, that we're not hurting some of our employees, that we have places that maybe we could find for them to be able to be employed. Thank you.
That is my understanding.
Okay, Mr. Milliberg.
Amber, thank you so much for the report. Just a couple of things. You mentioned that you could make the numbers for Title I available.
I have those. Yes, I can send that link to you
And-
right now.
You know, my experience, that it's kind of a big, Title I's a big deal to me. But as I've attended the community council meetings at the various elementary, and they share the numbers, you see kindergarten between half day, full day. These numbers were impressive. I think from what I've experienced, the numbers coming out of Title I are far more impressive.
On specific measures, absolutely.
And the second thing I want to say, and I'm gonna turn my eye from you over to Senator Reedy. Thank you, both to the Senate and the House, for identifying this need and doing something about it. This is, yeah. Even, yeah, I think the district has been communicating that for a long time. But thank you for getting that taken care of. Thank you for identifying that need and making it happen. That is, there may be a lot of items that came out of the legislative session this year that I disagree with. This is not on that list. This is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Thank you.
And the other thing that I I didn't put in the slides and I perhaps should have, but just to add to your knowledge about already what's happening in the Title I schools month, but across the board, we also have seen greater gains with our students in terms of attendance. We have fewer students who are chronically absent in our full day classes than in our half day. And then when you look at that comparison in terms of the students who are chronically absent and their performance, there's a significant difference as well. So some of those things, and I didn't include them because there's some teasing out of conclusions that we can draw on things, but I think it is worth noting that we have better attendance in our full day.
Okay, Mrs. Nybar.
Thank you for this presentation. As you know, this is something that I've been advocating for a long time. Early childhood literacy is one of my favorite subjects. I first wanted to thank Representative Robert Spenlove for his great conversations with us and running the bill, and also for the House and the Senate for passing. I think it's a perfect example of still honoring parent choice because we still have that half-day option available, but we are allowing full-day kindergarten to be something subsidized by the state that parents don't have to pay additionally for. So I'm aging myself a little bit, but this fall will mark nearly 23 years of having kids at school, and I'm sending my last to kindergarten in the fall. And I had signed him up for the full day before this session. You know, he's a November birthday, so he's a little older. But the results are the reading, the literacy, the math, these kids are well ahead. And I've had a lot of questions in my community. Is there really an advantage? And I'm so grateful that this was part of the presentation tonight, so people can go through and look and say, yeah, actually more learning does happen. I sent my first couple of children, we lived in Tennessee, and there was no half day option. I was very reluctant as a young mother to send my kids to the full day, but I already knew before I could look at any data after having those two in full day kindergarten and then moving to Utah and having my third and half day, the difference of how much growth and learning. So I'm grateful that we're providing this. And I'm also very grateful that we still do have that half day option and that people can transition back and forth. One thing I think that will be a challenge for our community is, you know, in other states where they've been doing that for a long time, their preschool hours are longer too. So the kids are already prepared and ready for full day. Some of these kids that have only been going to preschool 2 or 3 days a week for 2 hours, it's going to be a little more of an adjustment. A couple of questions I've been receiving from some teachers, a kindergarten teacher at Oak Hollow. And this is going to be something we probably need to discuss further, and Leon will need to be part of this discussion because cost is associated with it. But with the growing desire, I think I heard there's only 16 students so far that have declared half day.
Those of the students that are currently
Of the
enrolled in
students that are
full day.
currently enrolled. Okay.
So attending full day right now.
Okay. So their question was, do we know what cap will be for all day kindergarten? This is coming from a kindergarten teacher that has been went from half day to all day last year. Just wondering about how large the classroom will be. We've been tossing around some numbers in 24. I know some kindergarten teachers that are a little nervous about the idea of having 24. So something to talk about in our committees. Another question she asked was the possibility to have aides maybe even 2 or 3 days a week if they have that 24 classroom size. And so anyways, there's a few other questions that I'll forward on to you, and then maybe we can have I've talked to Dr. Robbins a little bit about that, but I think that's something we need to be aware of, that, you know, these kids that many of them most likely have been in preschool programs where they aren't used to the amount of time, like you talked about, that classroom management and behavior management, that we need to be well prepared so that the quality of the classroom experience doesn't go down if we have extra numbers that we're providing extra support.
Really good questions. And just to clarify, with our supplemental program, we did set the cap at 24, which is actually a little higher than our staffing ratio and recommendation for kindergarten, both in the half day and what we'll have moving forward. And that was again to balance out the cost of offering the supplemental and the tuition and making sure that we were trying to meet as many needs for the families who wanted full day, because we do have waiting lists that are long every year, and we have had that since the inception of the program 8 years ago. So that's why it's been a little bit higher. My understanding, and McKay and Alice will correct me if I have misunderstood, but the staffing ratio for kindergarten moving forward is 22.15. That sound right? Something roughly around there. So it would be allocated just the same way that first grade and all the other grades have been allocated, where there's a staffing ratio, and that's how it's organized.
Okay. So you're saying 24 cap, but we have a ratio of 22 to 1.
Been 24 with the supplemental, so the tuition-based
Yes.
program.
Mhm.
The ratio in terms of staffing moving forward is 22. That doesn't mean that if there's more than 22 students, there's automatically a new teacher. Again, it's looking
Right.
at the kindergarten grade as a whole, just like we do all other grades. And so we wish students came in packages of 22 for every single class. That would make FTE a whole lot easier, but that's not always how it works in our neighborhoods. And so again, that's going to vary from school to school as well, depending on the number of kids in the community that are attending kindergarten.
Great. And then as we move forward and look at the enrollment and have more stabilized numbers, I would just ask if it be possible that we have great communication with all of our elementary schools that are worried about, and what are the additional supports we'll be giving for larger classroom sizes, if that has to be the case.
I think that's really great advice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Edel.
Yeah, so I want to thank our legislature for making this happen. This is so important. And I've been a parent at a school that made the transition thanks to the grant funding to all-day kindergarten for all of the classes, and understand the heartache that comes, especially from our parents that maybe aren't ready to separate from their children quite yet. But I've seen how resilient the young students are in their transitions, and how many of them on half day have asked to go full day, so that they can spend more time with their peers, so that they can continue to play, which, as we know, is actually all learning as well. So I just want to bring up the concern to make sure that we're adequately addressing the hours from our bus drivers. I've received some feedback on that. And I know that the last I heard, we didn't have a plan settled, but do we have anything yet that we're looking at to address that?
Yeah, we know that this is a concern. It's been brought to you, been brought to the board members. Appreciate some of our bus drivers being here tonight. We'll have to look at all options. Right now, we don't have any concrete plans to present to you right now, but we'll have to look at this moving forward.
Thanks, and I appreciate everyone's really dedicated work, across the board in making this happen, because it's not an insignificant change. So thank you to your team, our superintendent, our business administrator, our transportation department. You're all amazing and making these things happen.
Okay, thank you, board. Mrs. Tingy, and anyway, this has been a great discussion.
Yeah, thank you. This is exciting, and many years in the works, and I really appreciate all the work that you and your team over the years have done, because I do feel like you mentioned earlier, we're in a good position to help kind of finish out the vision and the goal that we had, but there are still some things that need to be worked out, and I recognize that. And yes, thank you to the legislature. I appreciate that they were willing to fund it for us so that we can move forward this way. So just a quick question, because there are still things, logistics and things to be figured out. If parents have questions and concerns, they're probably most likely going to ask at their individual neighborhood school. So what type of communication is happening regularly, so that schools are, the folks there at the school that get the questions are informed?
really great question. And our principals are fantastic, as you all know, at every level. And so they have been sending out communication, letting them know that this opportunity has presented itself and that we will be moving to full day. So that has gone out, as I mentioned, from the district, and then individual schools have sent that out as well. In that communication, the principals have asked that if parents have questions and aren't sure if the half day or the full day option is best for them, that they can schedule some time to meet with the principal so that they can talk through those concerns on an individual basis. The principals are in the middle, as you know, of hiring season and preparing for next year. So they're working on their master schedules because that's the biggest question that a lot of the parents have is what is my half day option going to look like in terms of that programming and instructional time. So as soon as those things are available, the principals will be sharing that information as well. Obviously, in a lot of our schools, they already have a sense of that because they've been doing it. And so with a couple of tweaks, they've been able to share that information as the questions have come up. But that's the communication that's happening right now. A lot of it is individual, and then those broad communications about general information and more to come, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Oaks.
It's beautiful. It's professionally done. I think this is going to be awesome for a lot of kids. And I do want to just another shout out to the legislature and Senator Reeby. I know you've been working hard on this for a long time. It is a triumph, and it was a much needed one in the midst of a difficult session. So we are going to grab hold of the silver lining and just really enjoy that. So I'm excited to see what this does for kids long term, especially with those third grade reading rates that we are looking at so carefully. So
Okay, great, thank you. So I will say, just adding to everyone else's, that this probably was the best day of the whole session when this passed. So that was the best day. Anyway, I do have one question, and it has to do with the funding. So what if a student so I know that a half day student is 0.55 WPU, a full day is a full WPU. But what if a student starts half day, then switches so we don't have the funding for the full day? So yeah, this is probably Mr. Wilcox.
Yeah, yes, President Schill, that's a good question. How that works is we have UTRICS, that's our state reporting on membership. So if a student does switch, say after the October 1 count, we do turn that on to a full day. At the end of the year, though, that is captured back to us because it's based on average daily membership. And so we will have a record of that student attending, 80% of the days full time and the 20% half time. So that's all right about that.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure if we had that ability. And then I was just wondering, did we need a deadline for parents to decide? But it sounds like we don't need that because we can get fully funded.
Turn back as a register.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Amber. We really appreciate hearing about this, and
Thank you.
appreciate all
And
your
we
work.
sure appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more great news as the implementation continues.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to item B, which is Strategic Plan Focus Group Report, Access and Opportunity, and Wendy Dow, Director of Federal and State Programs.
Good evening. I feel like this part of the strategic plan was made for me. I don't know. This is just something I'm so passionate about. So I'm just really excited that I get to lead this particular planning group and work with the board members that are part of this. So we just want to give a quick report of where we are, what our next steps are, and you can give us a list of more things to do. I'm very excited about it. So we've kind of categorized our things into three main priorities. So very first is how do we meet the needs of all students in our schools? So that would be our advanced learners, our multilingual students, our students with disabilities, low-income students, students of color, every single kid that walks through our door. How are we making sure we're meeting their needs? So one of the first things we've already implemented is an FTE equity model. We know that FTE is allocated according to student numbers at the school, but then we allot additional FTE based on the numbers of multilingual students in a school, the mobility rate of that particular school, and also students that are performing below proficiency.
because we know that those students are going to need intervention courses, or they might need pullouts or different things to help support them. And we want to make sure that we're supporting those schools in that way. A second piece is to utilize our PLCs. We know that we've had an awesome focus on PLCs as we've been rolling those out district-wide this year to gather data and to adjust instruction. And we want to be able to disaggregate that data by student group so that we know how this group of students are doing in comparison to the whole, how they're doing, how that group is doing across schools, and we can utilize that data to adjust our instruction. We also want to identify specific needs of individual groups. So, for example, what are the opportunities that are already existing at the elementary, the middle, and the high school level for our advanced students? What is existing for our students with disabilities, multilingual students, and make sure that our families are aware of those opportunities, especially at the schools that their students are attending. And then we really need to start identifying some areas where we could expand. So we've been looking a lot at some models for advanced learning. We've been starting to delve into a little bit of the pre-AP model. What does that look like for, say, in place of honors courses, since there's more of a standardized protocol that goes with pre-AP? What would that look like at a middle school level? Putting greater emphasis on speaking and writing, so students are a lot more engaged in classes, and that would really also help our multilingual students. You know, when you just do all the reading and the listening and you don't get to do the speaking and the writing, that's where they're really getting excited about what they're learning. So, and then providing, you know, a big piece of our strategic plan is in access and opportunities, providing those smooth transitions from one level to the next. So that's going to be, you know, just helping a multilingual student make sure that those supports are staying in place, making sure a student with disabilities has the supports that they need as they move from one level to the next. And then we've talked a lot about what does it mean to have advanced learning? What is rigor? What is that engagement piece? So we are starting to work with instructional supports, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we kind of talked about some common characteristics that we felt like needed to be present in an advanced course or something that's really challenging our students. We want it competency-based. We talked about that. We talked about deeper dives into standards, textual analysis, a lot of creativity and critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration. So we have to tease all of that out and what that's exactly going to look like, but that's where our emphasis would lie. And then really focusing on connecting things to student areas of interest. So I'm thinking about some creative scheduling so that our teachers can meet the needs of our diverse learners. And then we have a list of indicators that we could use to measure our progress. A lot of these are going to overlap with the other groups within our strategic plan. And so most of this is going to be, we're going to break this data down by student group. So when you're looking at Rise and Aspire data, one of the things we would want to look at is how are our multilingual students doing? How are our students experiencing homelessness doing in these particular areas so that we can identify those opportunity gaps? We've talked about using formative assessment data gathered by PLCs, that we would probably need some sort of an assessment platform so that we could generate that comparative data at the secondary level. Talked about reading inventory, math inventory, and then using early warning system data that tracks attendance and office discipline referrals, also tracks failing grades, as well as GPA. And so we could break that down by student group to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students. So as we're looking at all of the different groups together, then we could take those data sets and just say we're going to break that down by the individual groups that we focus on in access and opportunity. Our second priority is how do we expand some of these educational opportunities for all of our students? So it's been so great because our committee actually has some pretty lively discussions, and I think it's a pretty fun group. But we also, Cindy and I had the opportunity to meet with Amber and Amanda and Holly, and just and Andrew, and look at the constituents that aren't necessarily represented on that particular committee to make sure we're meeting the needs across the district. And so one of the things that keeps coming up is we're losing students to charter schools, or we're not capturing all of the different kids that are living in a variety of areas. So making sure that we're addressing those needs. So we talked about, we're going to start an inventory of the opportunities that are being provided both during the school day and after school at each of our elementary schools. We already have a pretty good idea of what that is. But then also examining where we could accentuate that further during the school day. So it's not something that always has to take place outside of school. And then we've spent a lot of time talking about expanding opportunities at the middle school level. So looking at STEM-centered offerings, Cindy's done an awesome job of reaching out to other school districts to get course catalogs. We've looked at different course descriptions and offerings at some of our surrounding charter schools. I know at our last board meeting, Holly was talking about rebranding some of our courses, like looking at what the standards are and really advertising all of the great learning that's taking place in several of our courses already, and making sure that parents are aware of that. So just really kind of looking at, are we getting the most bang for our buck in terms of the course opportunities that we're providing students across the board. So, and then we listed out these indicators would be possibilities. And I know we'll have a committee that will kind of narrow that down and figure that out, but post-secondary readiness indicators are really great ways in which we can look at, especially advanced coursework. We could even start tracking, say, students who are taking advanced coursework in middle school. Does that mean, you know, they're more successful in that advanced coursework in high school? What does that look like? We could look at the numbers of students that are opting out of a full schedule at the middle school. And as we change some of those offerings, do we see more students coming back to a full day schedule? We can always survey, you know, I don't, sometimes we get survey fatigue. But we could also look at our capture rate of our public school students and see if we're getting some of those charter schools back into our system. Priority number 3 is always engaging our parents. I know that I think we do a great job with our canyoneering nights. A lot of our principals have talked about doing some kind of expanding that and targeting some of our specific populations, like we did with our multilingual parent night in January, and helping parents to really navigate the school system, and then allowing schools to have those specific community events that would be more catered to individual needs of those communities. And then we could, and you know, our indicators there would be based on the participation rates of parents. We already do this in our Title I schools. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but every time we do a parent engagement night, the parent has to sign in, and then I'm tracking all of that data. So I track the students to see what their attendance is like and what their academic performance is, to see if how often the parent is involved and engaging with the school, what impact that's having on the students' academic performance. So something like that we could do more district-wide, certainly to look at that data. And then of course we could survey parents also to find out their overall satisfaction. I know right now we're doing a pretty extensive Casey survey in our Hillcrest feeder to kind of look at what are the needs that parents have across the board and what are the additional supports. So from all of these, we have a lot of action items. So first, Cindy and I are working with instructional supports with Amber and Jesse to kind of come up with some common definitions. We were understanding that we were using words like enrichment and extension and honors and advanced in different ways. So we want to create a proposal of what common definitions those would be, bring that to the committee so that we all know what we're saying when we talk about that. We want to continue to collaborate with those other districts and then start to determine what is feasible for Canyons District. You know, every time I think about, I want to expand things, Leon looks at me and is like, do you slow down, Wendy? There's only so much money that is available. And so just trying to look at, you know, different options that we can have and try to find wins, you know, wherever we can. And then we want to, we're meeting with elementary principals to get an inventory of their opportunities and to look at their master schedules to see how they're meeting the needs of students. But our biggest thing is we do want to form subcommittees at the elementary, the middle, and the high school levels. It would have principals. We have a board member from our committee that will serve on each of those. To really address and dive into how are we meeting the needs of all of our different types of learners across the board, and what might that look like? What would be some proposals that we could put together. And then we have to plan our professional learning so it's coinciding with those priorities for our teachers. So a great example is we know we have several schools that are in targeted school improvement for our multilingual students. So Amber and I have been coordinating to create a pretty robust professional learning for teachers of multilingual students. And it's not focusing on a pullout, it's focusing on how do I do that within my classroom? How do I increase the speaking opportunities? How do I increase the writing opportunities and up the rigor so that all kids have access to that? And that's just going to benefit all students. That's not just going to benefit our multilingual students. So we're pretty excited about that. So we've got that kind of going right now. Whew, that was fast. Okay, questions.
Okay, Mrs. Oaks, then Mrs. Nybar.
I'm ready to take notes.
That was awesome. And I really appreciate you and Cindy reaching out to us individually and having a conversation. It was great. I know we kind of had a conversation when we met about this, but I'd like to just follow up about keeping track of students who come back from homeschool or charter schools and seeing where they're performing academically. If we can track that a bit more, I think it could provide some useful information and help us better understand our strengths or our weaknesses, you know.
I love it. I actually was already having a conversation with Daryl Jensen about pulling some of the students that are involved in advanced courses and then tracking that back to see what feeder pattern they came out of, what middle schools they're coming out of. And we had even talked in our committee about a 9th grade survey, like as 9th graders are moving in, do you feel prepared for high school? Like, you know, what's been happening and kind of looking at that. So yes.
Well, and I think actually giving a survey just from personal experience with my kids, giving them a survey at the end of 9th grade year, especially if any of them try to attempt honors or AP classes, and asking them, how do you feel like that went for you? You know, I think it's very revealing. But I love what you're talking about. I mean, honestly, my greatest experiences and memories as a middle schooler and a high schooler really came down to those very hands-on classes where there was a lot of writing and a lot of verbal presentation. I mean, we have lost the art of being able to speak publicly. And that really concerns me. I mean, when my kids are shortening every single word and they still can't use punctuation or grammar effectively, I worry, you know? So I think I'm very, very supportive of a lot of these ideas. I know there's a lot that we still need to disseminate down into something that's digestible, but I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Okay, Mrs. Nybar.
Well, I'm just going to first say to Leon, good luck slowing down Wendy. She's a runner, you know. You really don't. Okay, it was so great meeting with you. You know, as we were corresponding, I emailed and said, hey, can you two get a bunch of course catalogs from all these different A, B, C, D? And you know what she said? She said, well, we can do anything. Leave it to two redheads. And that's true. Look at this list. I don't know anyone else in the room who isn't just invigorated by this list. This is like waving a magic wand. You know, finding successful pathways for every type of learner in their schools. The advanced, I'm so excited right now in our course catalog, as we define honors courses, it's very ambiguous. It's just a deeper dive, you know, a longer discussion, and to actually have more finite standards that we're linking the honors pathway to, like that pre-AP is just going to be amazing. We talked about harnessing that grant for the engineering pathway. That's going to be fantastic. When we look at enriching the elementary school experience, you know, one thing I've talked about before, and I'd love for this to be on the list is, you know, we have SALTA at Sunrise, and we have some programs that have DLI, but where are we helping our children who may not have the resources at home for mom to drive them to a DLI school or to a SALTA school? So can we have an advanced math class that's just across the hall that doesn't require any extra cost for the family as far as time and transportation, things like that? So I think that should be something we also look at in the older elementary school years. You know, we could, kind kind of like a math immersion or an advanced math or an advanced science, some of that science and technology. I'm really, really excited about this. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about is, and we mentioned at the last board meeting, is looking at how we can better meet the needs for our ACC classes and our ECC for a clean feeder pattern so they can move on to their middle schools and high schools with their community.
Well, just in our conversations and talking with Nate, we've just added that to our agenda for our next meeting. So
Love it.
we'll definitely address that.
Love it.
too.
And I know that accommodation is also funding and classroom space. And I just feel that I think that with enough creativity and our very best thinking, we can do better. And for those kids. And I think that I believe in those two redheads. So
No pressure.
no pressure.
No pressure.
No, but thank you. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Thank you for adding that. I'm really excited about that. The last thought I had as far as this goes is looking at the nearly proficient students. That's another thing that, back when I was on SEC at Draper Park, when I followed these nearly proficient students, it's difficult because we create a lot of plans for the ones that are really way below the mark, right? And it's the kids that are kind of scoring around average or just below average. We don't have a lot of built-in supports for them for their growth. And so I really liked seeing in your presentation what we're talking about with more writing and language. And I think with curriculum maps, as we as a teacher would look at, how to engage those kids as well. Another thing we did at Sunrise years ago is we had, and there was someone at the district who's since retired that helped us, but we had the students in a classroom associated with a number based on where they were at their proficiency level. And the teachers picked, and it was tied to the land trust funds, but the teachers picked one student in their classroom at each level. So they had like 3 or 4 kids picked out in the classroom and then monitored their growth and had special supports for them. But I'm just thinking about with our goal of every child, having these successful pathways, it would be interesting to pull that out and segregate out that data and look at what we can do for those kids. Because sometimes those are the invisible kids that are a little bit harder to, because it's, I've been a teacher and you've got this classroom and it's easy for attention to go to the greatest need. And then you look at your kids that are bored and finished an hour ago. And sometimes it's that group.
And they had pretty incredible data. And these are students that had only been in the country for 4 or 5 months. So I
Amazing.
know if there are students that can make that kind of progress, we can do that.
We
can
can
that
do
for all
it.
Kids, yeah.
And I love also the piece about canyoneering and involving the community and parent nights, because I think that goes, we can't ever underestimate the value of getting the parents involved. And so I'm really excited to see where that takes us. And I'm excited. Our canyoneering nights are amazing. I'd love to see more of them at our neighborhood schools because we'll have better turnout and we can kind of reinforce that, hey, this is your community. The school is your community. So excited for all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Teeny.
Thank you so much for that report. I just want to mention how much we appreciate your leadership, Wendy's leadership on the committee. As a member of the committee, her excitement is contagious, as you can tell. And really the discussions we have are so invigorating and I really appreciate how you lead the discussion by identifying a key concept, and then we can do a 360 and we can expand ideas. We put stuff out there on the table and talk about it, and then you are able to bring it back together to some key concepts. So really, really appreciate the work that you do, and I'm so glad I get to be on the committee and learn from you and be a part of all this, because it is exciting. And I mean, the potential is endless. I mean, just like every child's potential is, and that's what we're focused on. Thank you.
In case you can't tell, I get pretty excited about it.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
2 things. Number one, if you think she's wrapped up here, you ought to see her when she's conducting a committee meeting. And number two, just for the sake of time, what she said.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. And
Thank you
I will
very
just
much.
say, as someone who's in school myself, it is way more interesting when you're speaking. What were the two things you said, speaking and writing? Anyway, it makes it way more interesting and engaging. So thank you for all your work. Okay, the last thing on the business is item C, 2023-2024 fee schedule, third reading, action requested, presented by Leon Wilcox, Business Administrator.
Thank you, President Schill, and I think Senator Reedy may be leaving, but I just want to thank her again for all her support of the legislature and speaking to this bill specifically. In the Senate Ed Committee, when it was heard, she brought up some very valid concerns that we all had. So I want to thank you for bringing those to everyone's attentions, particularly the funding of it. So thank you very much for your support with this. Again, just this is our third reading on school fees. By state law, USB rule, we got to adopt next year's fee schedule by April 1st. We'll ask you to approve this tonight. Just some quick updates on House Bill 175. Again, that did not pass. We do expect to have similar bills come back. Name is probably next year until something does pass. But just a very, very quick recap. This provided a 5-year phase out plan, so it's something we may want to look at moving forward, even though it didn't pass. But it did not put any funding there. Fundraising is no longer considered part of the fee, it's just the fee itself. And fees can still be allowed for supplies and instructional materials, and also anything that has a direct benefit to a student for kind of I'm thinking along the lines of a CTEC fee for CNA or EMT type costs there. These are the fees amounts that we have collected. We didn't update this, but the amounts are a little bit higher, being 2 weeks and further into the year. On the fee schedule updates, we're recommending the total aggregate fee a student pays is $5,000 for a high school student, $500 for a middle school student. We actually have it's actually only one high school student, as we checked again, did a check today, that has exceeded that mark due to two things. One, the cosmetology program at CTEC, and this student also on it's either dance or cheer, and they did a travel. So between those two, that did put the student over that amount. So we usually do have a 2 to 5 each year exceeding that amount. Here are the changes. Again, Amber hit on the full day kindergarten. So there will be no supplemental fee for that. So no elementary fees. Middle school fees, a couple recommendations that we have put out there. Again, these have all been the first two readings we had showed you these. Same with high school. The big one I think is that we're concerned about is just the food for our food classes. The price of food has gone up quite a bit, so we are recommending a change there. Again, that would be capped at the $30 class fee to offset that. Also, this is mainly at Alta. For their band program, and then the unified sports fees. Also the CTEC for our on board docs. We do not plan to offer the pharmacy tech program next year. We just did not have enough students register for that, but increases for CNA, cosmetology, and whatnot. All the master fee schedules are online, along with and on each school's individual website. As part of the approval, you're also supposed to approve the spend plans for each one And on each school's website is the spend plan. We are going, as based on a recommendation you asked us from last meeting, to go in and kind of beef up those descriptions on these. So we are in the process of doing that at all these and working with the schools on all these again. Mainly the high school and middle schools. We sent out a survey. First survey we sent out two. First one went out on Wednesday, March 1st. We brought you those comments last board meeting. I believe there were 8. Then we sent out a second one updating for this board meeting. Sent out a second one last Monday. That would be the 13th. Got quite a few more comments back. I believe it was 18 more, including a couple today on this. So you can see those comments there. And there is a possible board motion. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Gone through that quickly, but happy to take any questions from you.
Okay, any questions, board? I know this is a third reading, so we have talked about it a few times before this. Mrs. Ting.
Not really, well, I guess kind of a question, but maybe just as an idea. It seems to me as I read through the feedback that came from parents that a lot of the concern was about how high the fees were, but it seemed like underlying that concern was maybe not quite a clear understanding that what's listed is the maximum. And so I just wonder if in the future we could kind of work on being more clear about that not every team travels, not every team, maxes out that amount. And, and as just a comment too on that idea of, maybe a 5-year plan, I really feel like the first step of any 5-year plan to transition, to kind of where the conversation has been the last couple of years is we just have got to convince the legislature or help them see it. Why some of these, especially the general fees, why they're important and how they contribute to the whole student experience at a school, even if it's not something that's directly tied to the student and as far as equipment or supplies or certification, but how it does make the school culture better and so that experience for the student is better.
Yeah,
That's
agreed.
Just
Yeah, I don't think
kind of my commentary on.
I don't think a lot of. I think Senator Reeby understands that very well working in schools and in education. I'm not sure others do. Yeah.
Okay, any other comment? Mrs. Nybar?
I really appreciate Ms. Tingy's comments, and I feel that one thing that is important for our legislators to know is that the strength of our public school system, especially in the high school, is a lot of these extracurricular opportunities for our kids. It's seeped in tradition. That's one of the biggest strengths that our high schools have is these programs that have such a strong foundation. We've been doing them for so many years. And I wonder if it might be helpful to invite our representatives who live in Canyon School District boundaries and around to some of our school events. And that, way before the legislative session begins, that we have, even the opportunity for student advisory committee or some of these kids, when we invite them to a lunch, that they can hear from these kids talk about how meaningful these experiences are to them as part of their education. Because really it's one of the backbones, I would say, of the public schools. And if that can be, illustrated to them in real time with kids at performances and hearing from kids, because that's where I think there would be the greatest loss, would be the limitations we would have in providing all of those programs that we currently provide, unless there was a stipulation that this fee schedule does not affect the extracurriculars. So that's my thought there.
Mrs. Oaks?
So I agree with what's been said. I don't think that the legislators generally would disagree. I think that they would feel the same way. What I think is happening is that there is a disconnect between them understanding how this policy will actually impact it. And I think this is where we really need to be able to get started. I would say even in the next month or two, and having very specific conversations with our legislators and sitting down with them with the figures to help them understand how that translates into the parent experience. Because I'm pretty sure that if they curtail this enough and we start to see things disappear, they have no idea what kind of firestorm they're walking into with parents. Honestly, if you mess with their kids' extracurriculars, it's going to be really bad. So it's in their best interest and our best interest for us to work collaboratively with them and help them understand. I mean, get back to a place where we can actually have some real conversations as opposed to the backslap that we got at the legislature in certain moments this year. It just felt like it was so abbreviated and they weren't interested in having real sit down conversations that were real solution oriented. And I think that that's something that we need to grab hold on to before we even hit the summer.
Mrs. Pedersen?
I just would like to have you give us a clarification on how a student can get a waiver, because I'm looking through these comments that came through and there's a few parents who don't understand. Is the waiver program still there and how do you qualify for it? And what happens when you're a student who doesn't qualify for a waiver, but you can't afford the fee?
Yeah, good questions all. Let's just start with the waiver. Of course, fee waivers are still there, part of the state law. Obviously, we try to keep under the state law and just out of just pure respect, we try to keep this as confidential as possible, students on that. We do have at each school, we do have an administrator assigned specifically for fee waivers that, you know, is their specialty. That being said, all of them should know how to process and work with a fee waiver. So if a student does have family feels like they are eligible for a fee waiver, there is a form they'll need to fill out, bring that in. Of course, if everything's kept confidential, meet with that administrator, and then their fees can be waived after that. So there is a process.
So is there ever a time when a student doesn't qualify for help at all?
Yes. Then the next step,
Clarifying.
yeah, sure. All good questions. So
Mhm.
there are, you have the fee waiver line and you have students who are just above that.
Right.
I think our principals are fantastic because they walk the halls with these kids every day.
Sure.
They want everyone to participate. They want everyone to succeed to their credit. So they will work with families on either just waiving the fee, even though they may not qualify. They will work with a installment plan type thing.
Okay.
Excuse me, right?
He's just echoing you.
I was just echoing you as a principal. I mean, we've done payment plans with no interest, or there's lots of
But never
different
charge
installments, or
We want every child to participate.
Right.
There,
Right.
that's what we're here for. And so,
Right.
and I think our principals are fantastic. at
They are
that, so.
fantastic. Well, I just wanted to clarify that because it sounds like some of our constituents are not informed or confused about that particular issue.
Yeah,
So
and
thank
we
you.
hope there's a question, call the school, call the district office,
And we'll work it out.
call you and forward it on to us, and we'll make sure it gets worked out.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just a couple of things that echoing what. Yeah. I didn't know. Okay, you can go ahead, Mr. Edel, go ahead. No, it's fine. It's totally fine.
Thank you. So first, thanks for the comments for Holly and Amanda. I appreciate your comments, especially as we talk to the legislature. My only question is, would it be possible to have something like an average fee or a median fee to show with this? So I'm a parent that's about to move into schools with fees. And so my concern isn't so much what the fee is, but what I need to budget ahead of time. And I think with looking at the comments, that seems to be a lot of the concerns is you see the maximum fee, and I hear tonight, well, that's the maximum fee. Well, what should I actually expect? And I think that's a big question that people have. Because otherwise they just think that that's the fee. If you're gonna participate in this activity, it's $1,500. So I don't know if that's possible, but just one of the thoughts I was having.
Yeah, good question, Mr. Edo. I would encourage every parent to look at their specific school's website. You know, every school that's listed, and that's where you need to start, because again, we ask the board to, approve the master fee or the maximum fee. Schools can set them lower on a school by school basis. They can't go above what you approve, but they can go lower. So if you have questions, go there. I think the biggest one is always travel. Travel's the big one. It's $1,500 up to $1,500. So if you're in that high school range and you're looking at a sports team, participating in the arts, you need to reach out in advance to have your child reach out in advance to that advisor coach and see if they are planning a trip next year. Because most of them are in the works right now for next year's travel. And so that is the best way to do it. So you can, budget and plan that way. So yeah, most travel, as you know, we have a 45-day window. It's just not sprung up. Once in a while we'll have those trips due, but most of it's planned out 6+ months in advance. So parents know.
Okay, any other comments? Anyone? Okay, so I think there's a couple of themes that have come up from multiple board members, and that is just maybe more communication. And even in that email that goes out to parents, we could put these fees are the maximum, right? I mean, we could say something about that. And then also, I think we need to make sure that we're sending out links of this is how you get fee waivers too. Maybe not at the same time, but we do need to make sure that's going out to parents, like both of those things.
That's part of registration.
Part of registration. Yeah, so that's great. I love the idea of us meeting with the legislators, because like Amanda, I think they had no idea that if that bill would have passed, it would have been the end of most extracurriculars, which is a lot of why students go to school, let's be honest. So we really need,
I think it's important to remember that bill did not eliminate, there's never been a bill that eliminates extracurriculars like football, anything outside the school day.
It's just the in-school days.
In-school day, but that in-school days are so enhanced by the fees.
Yes,
You're right. Or pretty much that, the little, wish Bruce was here, but all the things that they do inside the school day, the pep rallies, things like that are enhanced by that, having speakers come in, whether it's the whole student body or just certain classes, things like that are really.
I think there was a bill though that eliminated, I'm pretty sure there was, yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was, even though the bill that you're talking about that was close. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it would virtually kill arts performances. I mean, as far as busing anywhere and choir trips and
sorry, Nancy.
Just a quick comment. I think extracurriculars, but where it gets a little tricky and where 175 was confusing and threatening some of the quality experiences at school is in the realm of co-curricular. And because so many of what some might think traditional extracurricular activities actually do have a component of the activity that is part of the school day, and what is traditionally considered a curricular or part of the school day group or activity does do outside of the school day activities and things like that. So that's kind of some of the gray area that I think we probably need to work on to better define and help legislators better understand the relationship between are within the school and the culture supported by the general type fees within the school, but then also the relationship of the curricular and co-curricular and extracurricular.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Nybar.
I got a call Friday, February 24th. I was just finishing my tour of our CTEC with Janet, and I got a call from the Hill from Charlie, and there was language they were considering with that before it was thrown out. And he was very concerned that it would, in fact, affect all of our extracurriculars. So I was ready to rally the troops and call all the boosters and team moms of everywhere to start, petitioning senators and legislators. So, it is as Nancy described, it is a gray area. And, you never know what's going to happen in the middle of session with language. So I do think that, I think it would be very influential to have these legislators at some of our events and then kind of show them a breakdown and say, this is how this is possible. These are these fees, and this is the backbone of our schools. So.
Okay, thank you. So you guys, we have before us a possible motion. If I'm wondering if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move that the board approve the 2023-24 proposed elementary, middle, and high school and CTEC master fee schedules as found on board docs and approve the spend plans as found on each school's website.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. So, any discussion to the motion? Okay, so all in favor of approving the 2023-2024 fee schedule? Please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, so now we'll go on to staff comments and we'll start with Superintendent Robbins.
Thank you, President Schill. First, I'll just be brief, but I want to echo the appreciation to our legislature for supporting all-day kindergarten, and especially want to express my appreciation to Amber and our in-school performance, but especially her and her leadership, over the last couple of years, whether it's been letters or 95% group or wonders, all the things that we've done in Canyons has been at her direction. And I know that goes back many years. So it's pretty amazing and historic to see this all come to pass. So I want to express my deep appreciation to her team for making this all happen. Also just want to express appreciation to Wendy and Access and Opportunity Focus Committee. I sit on all of those committees, and it's just awesome to see all of that great work start to come together, and how we're kind of crosswalking and bringing all of those ideas forth. One of the things too that I wanted to mention as we're thinking about the data and how we're pulling that together, just a reminder, in planning and enrollment, we've kind of disaggregated those responsibilities. And I just want to give a shout out to Kirsten and our communications team, because we pulled a lot of that data in enrollment trends and how students have moved in and out of our schools and where they're coming from and where they're going. So I think we're getting much more targeted in understanding our demographics and our students, so that we can, really better provide services and the experience that our students need. So, and then lastly, just along the lines of how this aligns to the strategic plan, everything that's been, said tonight, I was thinking a lot about that first slide that Amber shared about, really meeting our students' needs in a holistic way. And when you think about innovation, critical thinking, resilient learner, impactful citizen, and collaborator, I see all of that in the conversation tonight. And starting out with our kindergarten kids, it's really humbling to think that, from now on, it doesn't matter on your zip code, your, wherever you're from or whatever your background is, that you have the same opportunity to achieve and reach success. And the fact that we've made that commitment finally as a state, long after we're gone, this will be historic and a moment that so many kids will benefit from. So very grateful tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Superintendent. Now Business Administrator Leon Wilcox.
Yes, thank you, President Schill. I just want to echo our thanks to our legislatures for the funding that we received, for the teacher increase, and for all the work that they did, especially those in our area. So thank you very much. Also want to echo what Amber has done and our whole team for full day kindergarten. I remember back when we met 7, 8 years ago and discussed the supplemental base tuition, and we, let out on that. What a great program that's been. We're glad that, kind of that's behind us and moving forward with this. So, thank you to her and school performance. I want to give credit to one of her achievement coaches, Sean Thorpe at Oak Hollow. Last week, they had a science festival. As an accountant, I didn't know science could be so fun. Kirsten was there taking pictures. They had a science festival, invited the whole community. There were probably 600 to 800 people there in the school, all doing science projects. They were busting geodes. They were doing static electricity events. They were making little lightsabers. And then they were dissecting squids in the lunchroom. I just hope I didn't get confused with school lunch the next day. It was just so much fun. And then they blew up a foam thing that was probably about, what's it called? Foam ball.
Ivory soap in the microwave?
No.
Oh, no?
No, this is so much cooler. Is it a foam bomb? Foam gnome. It's some, as the accountant over risk management, I was a little worried how this was going to blow, but it blew up about 5. You put all the stuff in the bucket and it blows up, and foam gnome about 6 to 8 feet high. Kind of really cool to see it. So just a great event. So thank you to all our employees who just enrich these opportunities for our kids in all our schools. Just so fun to be a parent and to have your kids go and watch these. It's just really, really enjoyable. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go with board comments, and we'll start with Mrs. Nybar.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank our Canyon School District employees. We've just had some amazing discussions and conversations, and it's really awesome to see the overlap. I was thinking the same thing Dr. Robbins was. When Wendy got up and started talking, I could see all the areas of our high quality learning and the discussions around our strategic plan that Wendy and Cindy and that team has done. So that's pretty incredible. When I met with them individually, I'm seeing conversations from our strategic enrollment that Jeff and Kirsten have done as they were talking. And so it really, the amount of work and collaboration that's happened in the last few months around this strategic plan is incredible. And so it's really neat to see that translate to all the different departments. In our high quality learning committee, we're in there with Amber and, some of you here up and Bob, and it's the same thing. And it's just really exciting. Since our last meeting, I just wanted to especially thank Leon and Nate in our special ed department and Wendy and all those who were involved in that conversation to be able to allow the 2 classes at the ACC in Willow Springs to continue for the transition. So very grateful for that decision. And I know there's 2 families here that are very impacted by that. So thank you for that. That took some creative planning by our accounting department, right? To figure out how to fund that, and a lot of time for Nate, and I know Wendy was involved with that too. So thank you for that. March 15th, Draper Park Middle School was highlighted for their robotics team on Fox 13. That was such an awesome clip. And, I got that fun little email as y'all did from Janet, but it was like her finger with the iPhone pressing play. And I was like, please, someone give me the original clip. I want to post that and show that everywhere. It's pretty amazing what we're doing in our schools, and that STEAM curriculum and robotics and technology is just so important. In fact, one thing that stood out in my mind when I was over at that CTech campus was I had one of the teachers telling me, did you know our cybersecurity students are being courted by companies and they're juniors in high school and they're already being offered 6-figure salaries because we've prepared them for that industry. So that was pretty exciting to hear. I was really grateful to participate with the student advisory committee. Again, a lot of talk around how they can be engaged in their classroom. They want more hands-on. We talked about actually moving in different spaces. something actually Miss Oaks has talked about before. You know, that the idea of going outside and movement in your classroom and environment. So I asked the kids, how many times have you gone outside in your classrooms? And one gal was talking about how in her science class one day they went out and observed the birds. It was like a biology class, and that was really fun. And they remember that. They remember any time they do something like that where it's a little more engaged, a little different movements involved. And it just, again, I left the meeting resolved for commitment to spend less time on Google Chromebooks, to have more hands-on, collaborative, talking, speaking, kind of classroom experiences. Jordan High School, the principal that came, our great principal over there, I'm excited for looking towards the future for Jordan and what we can do there to establish that as a magnet where kids want to come and open enroll to that school. And I know we have a lot of exciting discussions coming up about that. I had the opportunity this last Friday to participate with the PTSA at Corner Canyon High School with Senator Kirk Cullimore. And Belinda Wong, I think she's the vice president. She did such a great job. I was so impressed. Our students were so prepared. In fact, it was actually a little humorous because we had our representative, Jeff Steinquist, and they were cross-fire examining him like nobody's business. They were like, hey, you voted against this bill, and this was, and why was that? You know, and poor Jeff. I mean, sometimes they were just given the bill number, and, you know, there were like 700 bills, and they were having to remind him what the bill entailed. But anyway, they were so prepared, and they just did a fantastic job. And the student participation was awesome. I really appreciated the opportunity to talk about all the innovative things we're going to be doing in Canyons and to really reinforce the importance of our public school system. And I was able to talk a lot about that and even clarify. We had a little bit of some discussion around that our favorite bill, that HB 215, and I was able to clarify some things about what I believe it means to keep our public school strong. So anyways, that was a great event. And thank you for the presentations tonight. That's all.
Mr. Edel.
So I had the opportunity to attend SCC meetings over the last 2 weeks at Crescent Elementary, Glacier Hills Elementary, and Sandy Elementary. I was able to visit Eastmont Middle School at their temporary building. I was able to visit classrooms at Crescent Elementary School. And I just want to give a shout out to the amazing teachers that I was able to meet there. I was able to meet with a couple of their different classroom teams while the students were out at recess and observe some of our really phenomenal teachers in action, both providing great instruction on what they were doing, but also really taking care of our students. There was one teacher who had a student that was having some emotional regulation struggles, and the mastery that she had at assisting that student just blew me away. And so I just want to give a shout out to the amazing teachers that we have out there that take care of our students in so many different ways to help enable them to learn and grow and continue with that. I was also able to meet with the Jordan High School Student Council, and it's always exciting when I get to meet with the students. They had a lot of great things to say. I appreciated my time with them. I was able to meet with teachers at Hillcrest High School, which was also another highlight, especially the 9th grade English teachers, as they had no shortage of feedback for me. But it's always nice to be able to meet with the teachers, especially in the small groups, and hear what they have to say and how we can support them. This morning, I had the pleasure of meeting with the Glacier Hills Student Council. So that was at the elementary level, and that was really fun. Our amazing 5th graders in our schools are great. I'm excited about everything that's been talked about. Special thanks to Wendy for her presentation tonight, not just because she gave it, but I also had the opportunity to sit down with her and Cindy. I'm excited for the future for our students across the entire district. You know, we have just amazing staff at this district. We have such amazing board members, and everyone's so committed to moving us forward and ensuring that every student is taken care of, that they have opportunities, so that our students that are struggling have opportunities, our students that are advanced have opportunities, and our students, I hate to say mid-range, right? But the rest of them have the opportunities to not only succeed, but to enjoy their education, and to, you know, be career ready and for that next step in their life. And it was mentioned with the fees and the extracurricular activities, you know, the CTEC opportunities that we have a lot of the fees in there, but you know, that's really one of the more amazing features that we have in our schools are those types of opportunities, especially the competency based, but really the career focused opportunities. That's what gets people working immediately. That's what continues to keep our competitive edge. The legislature talked a lot about how everyone wants to come here and have jobs here because we have an educated population. And you know what? We do, because of our amazing public education system. So just a big thank you to everyone who's continuously making that possible.
Okay, Mrs. Oaks.
Thank you. So I had a principal recently suggest to me the idea of going and attending faculty meetings at my schools. And so I've started doing that, and it's been awesome. And I started with Draper Elementary, and it was so fun to be in there and get a sense of what their faculty culture is. We have an amazing principal there. Ronnie Mulqueen is awesome, and she's really created a positive culture and supportive environment for the teachers there. It was interesting. Apparently, within the last month, they have received over 30 students from a local charter school. And the same charter school, I think Sprucewood Elementary has gotten about 8. And they don't receive compensation when those kids come and mid-year. And they've made adjustments, and they're doing really well considering the circumstances. I was extremely proud of them. And so grateful to be close to those teachers and hear what's going on in their classrooms and how they're feeling about things. It was really insightful. I also want to give a shout out to Sharice Hilton and Peer Court. That was an amazing experience. I couldn't stop talking about it for days at home. I came home and shared it with my kids. Talk about an opportunity to take kids that are struggling and give them something that really is a restorative experience and very supportive. I can't say enough good things about it. I think truly at USPA in one of our regional meetings, we need to have someone present on how Peer Court is going. And that is something that we really should bring a legislator or two in to witness, because it's an incredible experience to see what's going on there. One of the things I've wanted to bring up with the board, and I think that we might need to have a discussion in one of our board meetings about it, is ChatGPT. Increasingly, this is being used by our students to write papers or assignments, and school boards across America are addressing this. Some are disallowing it and saying that's strictly forbidden. Others are trying to figure out how to address it. It's coming up in the literature and it's being discussed, and I feel like we need to have a real conversation about that. I don't know if that means that we need to assign a committee, but we need to start talking about it. So, I had the opportunity to attend the Region Jazz Festival. We have a number of our schools that are going on to state, and that is such a fun event. And I also got to attend Concerto Night at Corner Canyon last week. Got to watch my daughter perform, but also so many other incredible kids. I mean, they memorize several minutes worth of music, thousands of notes, and with an orchestra standing behind them. It is quite an experience, and it really builds their brain in a way that is hard to replicate. But I was just so proud of these kids, so many of them who are doing sports and keeping up in academics, and yet they're still doing this musically. It was awesome. I had the chance also to go to the first robotics competition at the Maverick Center and watch those adorable kids. They took me around on a tour And they were so excited about everything that they're doing there. And really, it is pretty remarkable, some of the things that these robotics teams are accomplishing. It was not a surprise to me at all that Alta got the award that they did and that they're going to nationals. Mr. Strom, the minute I met him, Brian McGill's over there nodding his head. Mr. Strom is amazing. He's a tour de force. Not only has he built up Alta's robotics team so significantly, but he offers an incredible amount of support to all of the other robotics teams in the district. And part of what their team has become known for, and First Robotics really recognizes this as an important thing, is that they offer so much support and help even to the teams that they're competing against. I mean, they call it cooperation, but Ron really embodies that. And it was funny because when I was getting a tour from some of his students, I would turn to Ron and I would ask him questions about what the team was doing and what their plans were. And he would say, don't ask me, ask them. He is such an excellent mentor about training these kids to become leaders, and that they are the ones just taking the bull by the horns. And so when I saw the results of what came out of that competition, I wasn't surprised. We have some rock stars, and those kids, I think over 95% of them go on to college. They get amazing scholarships. Like their trajectory of what they get out of that experience is phenomenal. And I personally, as a board member, would love to see more opportunities for robotics teams at the middle school level. Waco Scroggins and I had that conversation a little bit. The group that went to Lone Peak Hospital that was featured on the news, my daughter was there. They're actually not a robotics team. It's just part of the after school class that they've had. But if we could actually catapult the experience or the opportunity for these kids to participate in a robotics team, it really would take their learning that much further. And Mr. Scroggins and I had a conversation specifically about drumming up mentors from the tech community and locally to be able to provide some mentors to be able to help our kids do that. So anyway, that's something I'd love to see more of and explore later, but that's all I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Milliberg.
I'm going to start out by thanking Mrs. Oaks for sharing that email, I believe it was a YouTube video of your daughter.
Oh.
Was it Facebook? I don't know which one it came from, but I was amazed. I sat down at my computer, opened it up, and listened to her perform the violin. And I was just taken aback by the whole idea. And when it finished, I called out and said, Chris, you got to come in here and watch this. This is amazing. You should be a very, very proud mom. And I think we also need to give kudos to the performing arts in our school. They did a wonderful job on that. Second of all, Amber, what a great idea that was to have us work with the Canyon Strong idea and do some thank you notes. For me, it was just amazing and Jeff and Kirsten, thank you both for putting together a list of the amazing things that are happening in our school district wide. More than just sitting down and writing a thank you note, I was just amazed to see the list of amazing people that work for our district that are out there doing wonderful stuff to make our schools better. Third thing, I think in the fall of every year, we all get excited because the high school musicals are coming. And we get, the principals contact us and offer us up a couple of complimentary tickets to go to them. And the students are very excited and they perform. They do a great job. Last Thursday night, far, far away from a high school musical, the Hillcrest High School Performing Arts Department performed the The Heart of Robin Hood. Not a musical by any sense of the word. They did have a string ensemble that played as kind of backup for the performance. 3 people shifting from a viola to a violin to a guitar to some percussion instruments as well. They had ropes. They had whatever those cloth things are that come down from the ceiling. They climb on, wrap themselves in and unroll. And my gosh, we sat there and watched the Heart of Robin Hood and watched the talent of our young people performing. It was amazing. It was just amazing. I don't know what the other high schools do. I know that Hillcrest does a series of performing art performances during the year, and they are amazing. We've been to I think every one of them, and they are great. So I think it's easy to sit back and look at our public education system and criticize. When you have an organization that services 33,000 kids, has, Leon, you could probably tell me how many employees. I'm thinking 5,000 employees. And to expect perfection, I think is pretty hard to do. But you know, we've got a whole bunch of people that are striving to achieve that perfection. We're not perfect, but we've got people pointing in the direction to where they want to achieve that. So I just, I stand in awe of our public education system as I meet with the people from other school districts across the state at the Utah School Boards Association. I will tell you that they are doing the same thing in their communities that we're doing in ours. A lot of good people. So with that, I'll be done.
Okay, Mrs. Teeny.
Thank you. I love hearing all my fellow board members' reports. I appreciate that. I was able to do a lot of things, but I just want to, since our last meeting, but I just wanted to talk about a couple of them. One was the USBA regional meeting, which I was really grateful that so many of our board members were able to attend and participate in the discussion and the conversation. It was really enlightening, and I think we were able to give some feedback to the leaders of the association along the lines, and I think that has been mentioned several times about starting these conversations sooner and earlier and more thoroughly. And so I really appreciate that, and thank you to Mr. Milliberg for representing us there. I liked that idea of maybe offering up to run a session at the USBA conference about peer court or leadership academy or something. Anyway, yeah, it was a good idea. But and as has been mentioned, so many people doing so much good work here in the district. It's impossible to list it all, but I too had a good experience kind of reading and focusing on some of those specific individuals and instances that were brought to our attention. And I really appreciate knowing that. But also in our school communities, I just wanted to give a shout out to all that the parent groups are doing there, the PTA and the SECs and all of those groups. They're working so very hard. I had a opportunity just last week. It was Media Safety Week at Quail Hollow. And I had opportunity to participate in some of the activities that they were doing there to help support that concept in our schools. That and I just feel like everything that is happening in our schools is in alignment, and we have this common purpose and shared outcome that I think everyone is recognizing, and they're doing what they can to help support that. And I feel like it's brought together because of our strategic plan. And I think that as time goes on, that will be more and more apparent how that is
pulling things together and aligning the efforts that are happening all throughout the district. So thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Pedersen.
Everybody's mentioned a lot of the good things that have been going on, and I'd like to kind of echo some of Mont's perspective on the good things that are happening in the arts. I had the opportunity, and this is one of the benefits of being on the school board, is that you get the opportunities to visit so many different activities and schools and be meeting with so many of our constituents. But I had the opportunity to go to the very professional sounding Canyon Symphony Orchestra on Thursday. And I could not believe the quality. Of course, I shouldn't be surprised. They're Canyons, right? They did a quality work. And the part that amazes me is that it was pieces of all of our high school district. You know, all high schools were represented there, and each of the principals took a turn leading different songs, and it was just a wonderful experience. So I want to give a shout out to Jordan Wright, Renee Dalgish, Caleb Shabestari, I'll say it right, and Mitchell Atencio, because you could see the dedication, the love, and the work that they had put in with these students. They were amazing. And it just makes my day when I get a chance to spend time in the presence of greatness. It was really, really great. I also truly enjoy being able to participate on the Student Advisory Council. Those high schoolers have a great perspective on what is really happening out in our buildings. And it's so refreshing and important that we get the balance of what our students are feeling and experiencing versus what we think they might be feeling and experiencing. And they have had some phenomenal and we've had some great conversations, and they have some great ideas that I look forward to being able to implement or to talk about in the future. I was able to participate at Willow Canyon on the Battle of the Books. It was always nice to go back and see the students and be able to participate in the activities that they are so excited about. It was a wonderful situation. The school kids are happy. Parents are so supportive, and it was very nice. We got to be judges. And so three of us former teachers. I wasn't actually there as a school board member. I was actually there as a former teacher. So it was fun for me to help judge their activities. I'm going to see if there's anything else. It's talked about so many different things. The one thing I think I enjoy probably more, maybe even more than talking with students, is the little discussions that I have as I go around to different departments. I meet different neighbors. I talk to teachers in the schools, parents at activities, wherever I get a chance to go to. And the part that I find that is so important is that we are trying so hard as a board, to listen to our constituents, to know of their concerns, and we take to heart what they say, and we really want to make our district the best that we can be. And I really appreciate the open communication that we're trying to establish, so that they know what we're thinking and we know what they're on, and we're all on the same team. It's not us against anyone. We're all there for our students. So I appreciate the willingness of our constituents to email, call, stop me at the store, wherever I, happen to be, or my co-board members. I'm sure that they appreciate all of the information that we are able to receive, both from staff, leadership, and our local constituents. So, and different departments. So I look forward to getting to know some of you a little better. I haven't gotten around to all my departments yet. I'm not as fast as Andrew. He has a list like places. You make me tired. You should get together. Because I think I'm busy, and then you have this list like, But anyway, I just appreciate this opportunity to represent the people and the wonderful teachers, people, students, faculty, all of the people that we work with, and be able to be part of the Canyons district, and we can all be Canyon strong. I think that this program is an awesome way to frame what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, board members. So I have a couple of announcements first, just housekeeping things. So in your packet is a calendar, like I asked administration to print that out. So it's the rest of the year because we have a lot of events coming up. I want to make sure you guys have those on your calendar. And then it's also next year's calendar of board events. So just don't forget that that's in your pocket. Take a look at it when you're home. And then the second thing is, so the 5A representative on UHSAA Board of Trustees did not get reelected. So anyway, they're having a special election, which will be the end of April. So any of us can run if we would like to. And I have more information about that, but I just wanted to I want to make sure you guys know about that. And if you're interested, maybe let me know and we can talk about it. I have some papers about it with a little more detail. And then I don't need to tell you what I've been doing because you guys all are amazing. And I just want to thank all of you because I think it's incredible what each one of you are doing. And I really do think we have one of the best boards. Like, I love hearing all the stuff you're doing and just what's happening in our schools. So you guys are all amazing and thank you. And that is the end of our meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Every one of our conversations, we were able to do within a half an hour. I think that's really,
It's 5
I'm just trying to pace.
I really